Hello and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Pick a Side podcast. This is now episode 462, and we have a special guest joining us. Nik Bonitto, Pro Bowler, All-Pro, broke out in his third season with the Broncos, 13 and a half sacks this past season. Nik, it's really good to have you on the show.
Yes, sir. No, I appreciate y'all for having me for sure.
Nik, I got to tell you, this is a special episode to me. Because I tell you what, you were the first athlete to ever reach out to me personally. But what was even better about you reaching out to me was that you reached out to me for me to tell my co-host to shut the hell up and to go ahead and watch the film. Now, that's really why I love that we're getting you on the show. We get to have like a genuine player versus podcaster type conversation. It could be on some calm shit. Obviously, it's going to be lighthearted.
Type shit.
But man, I can't believe that we're actually getting you on the show and we get to actually talk some ball.
Yeah, I'm sorry it had to be under those circumstances where I had to hit you up. But it's all good. I was just, having my tweak out moment.
Drew, I don't know if the fans know what it was about.
Oh, no. What it was about was, first off, we have to give credit where credit is due. This guy, Nik Bonitto, goes out here and he breaks onto the scene. Doesn't really get his real opportunity, until that Bucs game. He had to go out there and take it. Had 8 sacks last year. Wasn't enough. Still need to see a little bit more, allegedly, to the coaches. That Bucs game, he goes out there, has an amazing game. Then goes out there, gets his first start against the Jets. Doesn't look back after that. We know the rest of the rest of the story is second team All-Pro, 13 and a half sacks. One of the top guys for defensive player of the year for majority of the season. But what it was about was Joel Moran calling out Nik for apparently not being a run stopper. Nik, please, can you please enlighten?
Now,
man,
Drew is glazing right now. Let's talk about what it's really about. What it's really about is that, okay, number one, Nik Bonitto had 2 back-to-back amazing plays in back-to-back games, taking a pick six to the house. After the Colts pick six, after the Colts pick six, his DPOY odds jumped up to top 3, and I thought that was egregious. Yeah, I still think Nik Bonitto, you had a fantastic season. You were a Pro Bowler, All-Pro, but I messaged you as well, and I told you, listen, I think that there's other defensive player of the years because, in my opinion, the voters don't do a good job encapsulating defensive tackle play. Somebody like Chris Jones, I thought was a defensive player of the year candidate, but I think the voters look a lot at the sacks, and not saying that sacks don't matter, but I think win rate and pressures matter. I'm not saying that you didn't have those, but there were other dudes that I thought were in the defensive player of the year conversation. Not saying you didn't have an excellent season. I just thought top 3 at the time, it was definitely hype after you had the pick 6.
Sounds like disrespect to me, Nik. I don't know about you, bro.
Nah, it's not disrespect, and it's like,
as a man,
like he did have, like, I mean, he has like valid cases. Like, obviously, there's guys like Chris Jones who can impact the game in ways that the stats don't show and stuff like that. So, I mean, I get that part of it, but it's just like at the same time, whether I think I should have been up there or not, I mean, it's just like the game-changing plays that are being made, and like at the time of the games that is being made, I feel like that kind of had an impact in like the why I was growing and like just being in those conversations. So, but nah, he has a valid point though.
100%, and you did grow this year with the breakout that you took. And the Broncos defense as a whole broke out this season. Last year, I mean, you were a part of a team that led up 70 points. And in that season, you guys had a defensive turnaround there. But what was the main reason as to why this year you think that you guys took the major leap to just being an all-around elite defensive team?
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like when you just look like across the board, I mean, we just had a bunch of dogs. I mean, from, D-line all the way to the secondary. It was a lot of guys that felt like they had a lot to prove. So I mean, we went out there and you just kind of seen that with the way that we played. And I feel like a lot, especially during the the middle and the beginning of the season, we're always just like on point with what VJ was dialing up, and it was never kind of no coverage bust. It was always us working together well. So I mean, I feel like all that kind of played a part in like why we like did well this year.
So, Nik, let me ask you, because obviously I start the show off joking. Miss Moran, I'm sorry. I obviously had to talk about that a little bit. But let me ask, because I feel like a big part of being in the NFL is having some kind of motivating factor. You have to keep receipts. I'm assuming you keep receipts.
Oh, 1,000% I keep receipts. I mean, it's like, I mean, anybody is going to have those type of things where, like, you can look at the greatest player ever, like LeBron, and people are still going to find ways to hate on him. And so, I mean, I can't really take it personally. Yeah.
Jason Tatum.
I don't know how you can put them in the same breath.
We can't.
Nick, don't be afraid to tell somebody here to shut up. Don't be afraid to do
that. Hate for no reason, you know.
Nick, are you
Tatum, LeBron James?
Are you a LeBron James fan?
Don't stop the run.
I'm a LeBron James fan for sure.
Is it like that's your number one player in the NBA that you root for?
Number one player for sure.
Yeah, you're the GOAT, Nick. Come on.
Okay,
Yeah.
I see. LeBron James. Okay, that's good. How do you feel about the Lakers right now and how they're playing?
I feel like they're playing good ball right now. You know, it's obviously good that, you know, LeBron and Luka are getting those games in where they can just go mess with each other and continue to play well. Obviously, I still like have worries down the line with, like, you know, the big man rotation and stuff like that. But I mean, I feel like when those guys are on, it's gonna be hard to beat them in like a 7-game series going down. So especially with AR playing the way he is too.
Yeah, listen, we talk about keeping receipts. You know LeBron James going to keep his receipts. Like you said, they're going to talk trash about everyone. But I'll say this. I'm a Broncos fan. You know that, Nick. I'll be honest, coming into the season, I was pessimistic. I didn't know what to expect out of our offense. Rookie quarterback, not expecting much on that end, just trying to obviously hope just to see him develop and grow. But let me ask you, was there any surprise with the success that we had this season? Was there any type of moment where we're like, yo, wow, we're actually one of the best defenses in the league. We're one of the best teams in the league. We have a legitimate chance to make the playoffs after a lot of people thought we would have the number one overall pick.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like, it was kind of crazy to me, like, when people were saying that stuff about us, like, winning 4 games, you know, being in contention for the first pick. Because I'm like, if you look at, like, a lot of the plays that are being made last year, like, it was by guys that were, like, coming back on the team, whether it was, like, PJ and his interception against Green Bay, J-Mac, all the turnovers that he had last year. Yeah, exactly. Like, all those guys, you know, and then, you know, I felt like we were only just going to get better, especially up front, with, you know, obviously the addition of JFM and being able to have guys like Coop and Zach come back and just us meshing well together. That's why I thought it was crazy. And then, you know, just like looking in the summertime when we had to practice against Green Bay, and just like the way that, you know, we kind of practiced against them, and they were a team that made the playoffs the year before, and for us to be able to compete with them and, you know, kind of, you know, have a good practice against them, it definitely like was like, yeah, we're gonna be good this year for sure.
Going back real quick to last offseason, I was reading an article from The Athletic where you were the first player in Bo Lowry's new like health and performance system last offseason. Like, obviously, part of the reason why you had 1.5 sacks your rookie year, 8 sacks your second year was you got more opportunity, right? But was there anything last offseason that was different in that program that made you break out?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I kind of knew, you know, just, you know, the confidence in myself that I can go out and break out and stuff like that. But it was kind of like summed out a little bit because, I mean, I don't know if you follow the Broncos like that, but like I had missed a lot of like training camp because of my back injury. So I kind of didn't even know like where I was as far as like the depth chart and stuff like that. So, I mean, it kind of took me a little bit too once I actually got back because I had to get, you know, you get used to playing football and stuff again. But I mean, once that all was, you know, figured out, you know, and credit to Bo Lowry, like you said, he's one of like the better guys in the league. You know, I was able to actually start playing more and, you know, making plays and stuff like that, like you said.
So question. Question. Last year, you guys had a bit of a cool little turnaround towards the end of the year where you guys were getting a lot of turnovers. You guys were making big plays on the defensive side. And you had Russell Wilson last year, and he was kind of keeping the ball safe, you know, being a quality quarterback. This year, you had Bo Nix. Talk to me about just the difference from your perspective in having a veteran quarterback, somebody who's won a Super Bowl, probably going to be in the Hall of Fame, to somebody like Bo Nix, who's a little bit of an older rookie, but still nonetheless a rookie who's, you know, learning his ways under Sean Payton.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like you said, with Russ, he's the guy that, you know, came in and he demanded the locker room kind of that first second he was there, at least when I got there. And, you know, he was a guy that everybody looked at as a leader. And, you know, he was a great one for us. You know, obviously it didn't work out, you know, in Denver, but I mean, everybody can appreciate what he did in his time there as far as the man that he was and just the leader that he was. And with Bo, he kind of took a different approach to where, like, obviously he's a rookie, so he's not going to go in the locker room and try to tell people like, hey, like, I'm the guy, like, you need to follow me. He kind of took the humble approach about it. But I mean, just the way he came in and played, in practice and during camp, it kind of like he kind of earned our respect there. And, he kind of became that natural leader that, we're looking for in a quarterback. So
yeah, I tried to do myself the favor. I got excited. Russell Wilson's now a Denver Bronco quarterback. I don't waste any time. Like the Broncos, when they go and they give him his contract, I buy the jersey. Obviously doesn't work out. So now I'm all scared. I'm not sure if I should get a Bo Nix jersey or not. He balls out. I still don't have a Bo Nix jersey. I don't know if I can do that. I feel like I'd be putting the risk of Broncos country and their quarterback. Now, let me ask you about jersey numbers. You changed from 42 to 15. Now, 15 worked pretty well this year. I'm not going to lie to you. You were dogging that 15. 15 looked good on you too. Why the number change?
I actually wanted to switch to 11, which was my college number, but they ended up giving it to Josh Reynolds. So I was still able to get 15. That's what I wore in high school. So that's kind of the story behind that.
Yeah, 15's clean. The 42, was that just a number they gave you? It's like as a rookie?
Yeah, I had to get 42? Out of that though. 42
I
was
those
a good
low
look
numbers for D linemen. Like you got Mike at 11, right? Yourself at 15. Those look clean for edge rushers and pass rushers.
For sure. Just getting them like smaller kind of numbers for sure.
Yeah.
I feel like the type of edge rusher you are is becoming more normal across the league, where it's more of a speed rusher off the edge guy that you're also able to drop back into coverage and make plays like that. How difficult was it coming into the NFL as a rookie, you being labeled a smaller edge rusher and you having to put on weight? Because I was listening to your listening to your parents on the Pivot podcast, and you talked about how, when you first showed up in Denver, it was a transition process for you, just getting acclimated to the altitude in Denver. You couldn't really, it was hard for you in training camp. Like, just speak about that process and how you got acclimated. And for people that have never been to Denver like me, how is it in that altitude working out?
Yeah, no, it definitely can get crazy. I mean, I still remember like that first day of rookie minicamp, like I was dying on the floor and like I was just embarrassed. I'm like, damn, like I was their first like pick in the draft and I'm out here like dying and stuff like that. So that had me pretty sick. But I mean, the rest of it, I feel like it was just an adjustment that like kind of not all rookies, but most rookies go through, as far as just like, getting in and, having to adjust to playing against grown men, and, just learning a different system, being caught up in that type of aspect of it. So, I mean, it's a lot for a rookie to come in and, just dominate the way, that some people think they should and stuff like that. So, I mean, when you see those type of things happen, like you got to give props to those rookies that are able to come in, play well and be like, focal points on their team, because it's not an easy thing.
Yeah, so I mean, sorry, Joel. I was going to ask you to piggyback. One of the coolest things about the Broncos defense is when you look at all like the great defenses, right? Like the Eagles, for example, they have a lot of brand name players, right? Like you have your Jalen Carter's, your Darius Slays, but this Broncos team, outside of like PS2, and you broke onto the scene this year, it's a lot of guys who are really solid, but we're not talking about them, like top 5 players of their position, right? Outside of PS2, of course, who shout out to him, just won Defensive Player of the Year, put it on for the DBs.
Go.
Who do you think is the most underrated player on this Broncos defense?
Such a good question.
I would probably say, I mean, the easy answer, Jaquan. No, I was just about to go there because I was gonna say the easy answer would be Zach Allen. Which obviously he's starting to get that recognition from the players and everybody this year. So, but definitely Jaquan McMillan, bro. I'm just like, everybody doesn't see the stuff and like the kind of the mentality that he has, but like we'll go back and look at the film and like coaches highlighting the way he plays, because the way he sniffs out screens and comes downhill and will tackle, Derrick Henry on something, and he'll just level a guard on the screen or a pull or something like that. And the plays that he makes in coverage with his sticky coverage and just, the plays that he makes with interceptions, PBUs, man. I mean, he does it all. He has like a fearless mentality. So he's definitely one where like people really sleep on him a lot for sure.
Especially how excited on one side, yeah. You're gonna get tested. You're gonna get thrown at.
100%. How excited are you this offseason for the leap that the Broncos can potentially take? I don't know if you're too familiar with how much cap space they have at their disposal, but it's a ton. They have a ton of money, but you guys have a roster that is all intact. So there's potential that next season, this team, there's going to be a lot of new faces in the building that are going to make a huge difference. How excited are you to take that next step next season?
No, I mean, I'm really excited. I mean, just like the stuff that we can do as far as like the draft and free agency. People saw, we're on the up and up. So I feel like people are going to want to come now for sure. And people are going to be excited to be here as far as the draft picks. But not just them. I mean, the guys that, are coming back, I'm excited for a guy like Troy Franklin and what he's going to look like in year two. A guy like Jonah Ellis, Dondre Tillman is going to look like in year two and getting those reps under them. And a guy like Riley Moss, who, was playing at such a high level before he got injured. And, having him, come back and, do another season. I'm really excited for a lot of those guys, man, to just get their opportunity again and go out and continue to do it, what they were doing. So.
Yeah, you mentioned some guys on the secondary. You mentioned Riley, you mentioned Quan, obviously PS2 with the DPOI. But let me ask, because there was a point in time where you and PS2 were fighting for that Defensive Player of the Year. There had to be some type of trash talk in the locker room saying, hey, PS2, I'm about to bring that award home. And then PS2 obviously had to get his, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, especially after that second touchdown I had, he don't really talk too much. So he came up to me and was like, we got to get you that DPOY. Bro. I was like, yeah, that's how I know it's real. But I mean, just for him to kind of say that and knowing the type of player that he is, it was definitely special for sure.
Let me say this, though. That play that you made breaking in on that ball, first, both plays in back-to-back weeks versus the Browns, you being able to sit in coverage and just read Jameis Winston's eyes, does a good job of that on his own. Shout out to Jameis. But obviously, you did a great job of just coming in, reading the play, making a play on the ball, bringing it to the crib. But then that play versus the Colts, I think to me, slightly more impressive because they're trying to do some trick play nonsense. You were just on top of that.
Yeah, and it's you can kind of tell when people and teams are actually going to run a screen, and from the get-go, he kind of threw it backwards. So I'm like, something's already kind of funny about that. And then on top of that, AR was still kind of just chilling in the back. So I'm like,
true.
They might try to throw this hoe back. And then once I seen the ball in the air, I just kind of broke on it, and then the rest was history.
When that play happened, I don't know if you saw just the reaction of social media. There was a reaction of obviously great play, but they're also I can't believe the Colts ran this play. Was part of you thinking in that moment or after when you watched the film, wow, I can't believe they really ran this trick play?
Yeah, I kind of get why they did. Not against our defense though, just because we got a lot of speed on the field and a lot of smart players, but at that point, they were up in the game. They could have had the touchdown that got taken away, and then we took the lead finally. So all the kind of momentum was in our way. So I feel like they kind of just needed something to happen, and it didn't work out well for them.
Of all the offensive players that you've went up against, specifically talking about quarterback, is there any quarterback that you think gets a little bit underrated in the NFL landscape that you feel like doesn't get the credit that they deserve?
Joe Burrow.
What makes Joe Burrow so good?
Bro, it's Joe Burrow's just he's probably one of the smarter quarterbacks and probably the smartest. Just he knows what's coming. At least it felt like against us. He knew what was coming, and every time the ball was hiked, the ball's already getting out, and he knew where he wanted to go, and it was always on the money. So, when we talk about a guy that's just being able to be smart and manipulate the pocket like he does, it's just it was a tough go for us, bro. He was harder, I feel to kind of sack and get together than any other quarterback, just because if he sees you going high, he's going to escape through the B gap and he's going to find a receiver. He's just going to run.
So basically, you're in a pretty tough division right now, kind of owned by one guy, one team in the Kansas City
Chiefs. Now.
But
for now,
like I was saying, last year, you guys kind of had a good year in terms of you made the playoffs. Also, the Chargers made the playoffs. The Chiefs kind of went to the Super Bowl. So now you're walking into this offseason. The Chargers have a little bit of money, but they have a lot of guys to bring back. You guys have a ton of money, and Kansas City is trying to bounce back from that ass whooping that we gave them in the Super Bowl. What's kind of your mindset walking in, just looking at the division? I know you're probably not thinking about the Raiders right now for this season coming up, although maybe they could shake some things up with Pete Carroll. But what's your just mindset in, having to face the Chargers offensive line, then having to face Kansas City? What's your mindset going into those matchups? Because I know you guys want to be able to take that leap from last year to this year?
Yeah, I mean it's tough all around. Like you said, like the Raiders, especially like when we played them last year, they were a really scrappy team. They not gonna just lay down. Obviously, it's the NFL, nobody is, but I mean, just the way they played, they have some toughness, and obviously with Brock Bowers there, and Jacoby Myers, they got a good offense. So, and then the Chargers, they're gonna try to run the ball all the time. They're gonna try to, have that type of physical presence to the game when you play them. So you always got to bring your hard hat when you go against them. And the Chiefs are what they are. I mean, we've been trying to. I mean, obviously y'all did this year, but everybody's been trying to dethrone them for how long now? So I mean, we're just trying to build and continue to, build a team that's going to get to that type of point. So.
I mean, you guys were close. I mean, you beat them week 18. They didn't play a lot of their players, but still, like the first matchup, you guys were supposed to beat them, and then the blocked field goal happened. Yeah, how did that make you feel in that moment?
It's one of those things where, like, you ever like watch a game and like something happened and like you're like, is this even real right now? Yeah. Like it was just one of those, like, and I'm just like sitting on the sideline, like hoping like, oh, like a flag happened or something crazy happened to where we can get it back. But nah, that was probably one of the crazier moments in like my football career, being able to see that.
No, I was 100% ready for Drew to come in next show talking all of his shit, talking about how the Broncos about to go to the Super Bowl after that. And when they blocked that kick, you're right. It dead felt like this is something that just shouldn't happen, right? You guys, I mean, you played them as good as any team had this season, right? But I got one question for you, Nick, because me and you, we got something in common, believe it or not. Nathaniel Hackett was my offensive coordinator this past couple of years. He was your head coach your rookie season. And I can't think of a bigger 180 than going from Nate Hackett to Sean Payton year over year, right? And Sean Payton is one of the most established head coaches in the NFL. But he also, does things his way for better or for worse. I remember this past offseason, he was talking shit about the Jets, right? And you guys shut us up for sure. But to peel back the curtain, what is Sean Payton actually like in the locker
room? He has like two sides to him. He has like the side where like everybody sees on social media where like, he can be like a tough coach and he's always like kind of, he's hard on the players and stuff like that. But like there's also a side where like he's joking and like being silly and like kind of like one of them goofy grandpas in a way where like he's just cool to be around and stuff like that. So he definitely has a good balance to him. And just as far as like the coaching aspect, I mean, it's hard to argue with anything that he wants to do because all he's done is win everywhere.
Yeah,
so
fact.
You just got to appreciate his love for winning and stuff like that.
Now, obviously, our defense was amazing this year. Every single level, we were fantastic. But let me ask, coming into this season, what's one thing you feel like we could be better at than we were in the year past?
Yeah, I feel like definitely, I'm going to start up front, just kind of having better gap integrity. And, when we go against, those quarterbacks, those mobile quarterbacks, just being better at like caging them in and things of that nature. Because the elite guys in the league, I mean, they're especially in the AFC, you got guys that can move with the ball and make plays down the field. So we got to try to keep them in the pocket. But then going on to the back end and linebackers, I feel like just being on the same page when it comes to coverages and not having any busts. I feel like those were kind of the two things that, like, when we had bad performances were like the main things that happened. So.
It's a fact.
And I feel like it's tougher to maintain gap integrity when, I mean, you guys play a lot of man coverage. It's a lot of cover one, man coverage. So it's a lot of the eyes are not on the quarterback. So there's a lot of pressure on you guys to make that play. And if you don't, then you see a scramble for 10 to 15 yards.
Question, because you're about 24, 25, I want to say. You're relatively young. So you've kind of come into the league with guys like Micah Parsons, guys like Jalen Carter, and I believe TJ Watt and Joey Bosa. They're not far off from you. But what would you say would be a guy or multiple guys that you modeled your game after? Because I know there's a lot, like Joel mentioned, or Drew, I forgot, that the speed rushers are starting to make that trend or that trend back into the league as those dominant forwards. What's a guy you model your game after or you watch a ton of film on?
Yeah, especially, coming into the league, I definitely watch a lot of Micah and I watched a lot of Brian Burns. I feel like those type of guys kind of had that play style and to where I think I can, take things from them and try to like, use them in my game. and stuff like that. But a guy who I feel like is really underrated right now and that I've been watching a lot is John Bernard as well. So
yeah, and that's a similar type to you. And they drafted another player that fits that mold in Dallas Turner, just a speed rusher who early on in his rookie year, he didn't play the best, but over the stretch of the season, he played some really good football for the Vikings.
no, yeah, Dallas is dog for sure. Go ahead, sorry.
Draft coming up. Who do you guys want to pick? Like, who do you want to pick as, a defensive player?
He's asking the important questions.
Or sitting there, you're thinking like, I think this is what I would do. This is what I would do. I know, and I know you watch a little bit of college. Maybe watch a lot of it. I don't want to assume nothing, but I can say you watch enough to know. You know who you guys want. So who would you want to pick with your draft pick?
I mean, you can go like anywhere. I feel like there's a lot of good talent in this draft.
He's been media trained. That was a media trained answer.
A lot of talent. Could go offense, defense.
I definitely would want to go defense, whether it's like edge guy to help out our room. We get a backer, a linebacker, or a D tackle to get better up front. Or there's some good DBs in this draft too.
Let's bring some of your alma maters. Bring Billy Bowman and Danny Stutzman in the building.
Yeah. No, facts. I've already been talking to George about him. Hopefully they're on the radar. So.
Billy Bowman's tape is ridiculous. Yeah, he gets after it. Yeah.
His freshman year with me, bro. Like he was one of them ones for sure. So I mean, hopefully we can go get him.
I can understand us wanting some depth at the line. I feel like we're there, though, especially with Jonah Ellis kind of being in that background, knowing that he's a kind of a sleeping dog that probably we're going to see him break out this year. I could see linebacker, not knowing what's going to happen with Singleton. Obviously was hurt last year. We definitely could use a linebacker there, but I just can't help it. I see pick 20. I see the offensive talent. I see the ceiling of where our offense can be if we just have a little bit more talent there. Our defense was just amazing. So I feel like I'm not even thinking about at pick 20 a defensive guy, but I feel like with our offense, that's the one part of our team that really can take that next jump. Our defense did that this year. It's time for our offense to kind of catch up there.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the guys that they have in the draft this year. I mean, the running back class we all seen this weekend is loaded. Yeah, I mean, so you're going to get a good player in the first or second with that, possibly even the third. And then, obviously the wide receiver class is really good. The two tight ends I kind of feel like are, the guys that can really make a difference. Where it's with bro from Penn State, Tyler
Moran and Loveland.
Yeah, Loveland.
Would love if Moran it's up.
They're good with their crew now. Don't worry, they're good.
I know how Sean is on offense, and I know he would love his tight end. So I mean, I can see that happening, but we just gotta see.
Now, Bonitto,
Taysom Hill. I feel like that's a player.
Taysom Hill is a potential option. Now, Nik Bonitto, I don't want to get you in trouble here, but I want to really ask this question because this is a talking point all throughout the NFL season. Now, I'm not going to name no names, okay, but you're going to understand what I'm asking. There's a certain team that when teams go up against them, they feel like they got to go up against that team, but also another force in the stadium, if you know what I mean. How true do you think that is? That when you're going up against this one team, you also feel like you're going up against some other forces?
That sounds crazy.
I think I understand what he's hinting at. Now, Nick, I'm just going to put it to you bluntly. He's saying that the Kansas City Chiefs benefit from the referees.
No, I'm asking you if you think a certain team benefits from them.
No specifics.
I don't think they do, man. I think that's just more of a social media thing. I mean, at least from when we played against them, I feel like we kind of had the game in our hands to win all the times we played them. But I just feel like as soon as the refs make a big call for them, everybody just be like, oh, they're cheating for them, blah blah blah. But it's I don't know, man. Sometimes you just gotta respect winning, and I hate to give them credit too. So.
I love that we're on the same page. Social media has driven me crazy with every single call gets nitpicked and stuff like that. And the Eagles beat them fair and square, so there was nothing to nitpick. Now I want to get to know you on a personal level, and I feel like there's one question. Yeah, no, they did dominate. This is the one question I want to ask you to get to know you on a personal level. Drake or Kendrick Lamar?
We already know this guy tweets. Nick, I love you. I really do. I see it all the time. He's talking about how Drake got his ass beat so bad that he can't come back from this.
Listen, like, it has nothing to do with Drake's music because I'll listen to Drake. I'm like the fakest Drake hater. I'll listen to Drake right now. Like, but I mean, I don't know. I just don't like just how he moves and just his personality and stuff like that. It just is not the type, that kind of sits well with me. But
what's in your rotation right now? Who are you listening to?
I listen to everybody really. My main guy is probably like Don Toliver.
Okay.
Travis Scott. Yeah, I mean, those type of guys. Ken Carson, Destroy Lonely, all those type of guys.
Oh, I like that. Destroy Lonely is a really good artist.
Ken Carson. I'm assuming you like Playboi Carti.
Oh yeah, Cardi's in there for sure.
All right, ball. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah.
So is it that like you're pro Kendrick or you're just like more anti Drake?
No, like Kendrick is one of my favorites too. I mean, I listen to a lot of his stuff as well. So like it was kind of already made it easier for me to like be on his side whenever they were beefing and stuff.
Now, between you and I, was Meet Your Padre one of the worst songs you ever listened to in your life?
You said meet what?
Meet Your Padre.
Nah.
The song that Drake released on his newest project with Party Next Door.
Yeah, no, it went. The whole album was pretty good. I mean, it was just like a different vibe than like I guess what people wanted. I mean, I still kind of delivered on like the love type of thing for it, but I thought it was pretty good.
No, I'd love to hear that. I was expecting you to shit on the album. I'm not gonna lie to you.
The one song I don't understand how people like is Nokia. Like that shit is
Nokia is hard.
Nokia
is hard.
Y'all gotta stop.
No, that might be the best song on the project.
Let me see you dance.
Bro.
Let me see you twirl. Nah, he was on some shit.
I can't get with that one.
Question, because you listen to Playboy, you listen to Trav. It sounds like you're an Eagles fan. You might as well come to Philly.
Nick, don't listen to him.
We'll let your rookie contract ride out. We'll let your rookie contract ride out.
Then Howie's gonna make a call.
Howie will make a call. Maybe you'll answer. Listen, it's great over here. But who would you say is the top? And this is not top 5 best quarterback. I don't want that answer. But who do you think is the top 5 hardest quarterbacks to take down or sack? Because we have a new trend of quarterbacks that like to move on their feet. They're really mobile, and we're getting away from the statues of the league. And the statues used to be elite. We had Phillip, Brady, Peyton. We had some slingers. But now we're getting into the mobile quarterback vibes. Who do you think is the 5 hardest quarterbacks to sack or just get to in general?
Yeah. I'd probably say 1 is Lamar. Just because he has the speed to get away from you, and he kind of has that intelligence to him too, to where he knows like what's open in the rush lanes. Number 2 is Justin Herbert. Just because he doesn't really get that much depth in the pocket. So I mean, if you're trying to run around and beat tackles around all game, that's not going to work too well, especially with the guys that they got. He's kind of going to get his 4-step drop and just kind of sit there, and then he can also run and make plays. So he was pretty tough. Joe Burrow was probably number 3.
I'm seeing a trend because you were able to get to all of them.
I mean,
you were able to get to all of them. I'm just
for sure. It's just those guys were really good.
They are tough.
They are. Yeah.
All jokes aside.
I don't know who the last 2 would be.
Patrick Mahomes doesn't enter the Matrix in here.
We don't talk about that guy. We don't talk about that guy.
I don't know. I feel like at least like a couple of times we played in the last 2 seasons, and like a lot of it's not his fault. It's just like with their old line and stuff like that. But I feel like
Josh Allen doesn't enter the Matrix. The guy.
Josh Allen, yes, Josh Allen. I would actually put him above Joe.
Let's get there.
He'll probably be 3 or 4.
So Lamar and Josh are 1 and 2. You played both of them. Who would have been your MVP this season?
Lamar. I would give it to Lamar.
Me too. He got
Lamar
robbed.
was OD this year.
Lamar.
What about Geno Smith?
What?
What about him?
Geno into it?
He said, "What about him?" Oh my goodness!
What about him?
No.
Like,
No, I meant just hard to sack.
Nah, I didn't think he was one of those guys.
It'd be like that.
Statue.
Geno.
He's not one of them dudes, man.
He's great.
Who do you think should have won last year? The MVP?
Lamar should have won.
Could have won 3.
This is disgusting.
I mean, that's just me personally. I feel like I played both of them, and like, I think like Lamar with everything that he did, it just it was way harder than what Josh offered. But Josh is still really good though.
Lamar a demon. So you coming to Philly or what, man?
Nah, man, I'm a Bronco, man. Trying to be Bronco for life, dog.
He's got to be $100 million man, Riz.
You see what life is over there in Philly.
Riz, like, respectfully, shut the hell up.
We about to get there.
Y'all got enough.
Nick, I get it. Zach Allen, cool. I get it. PS2, DPOY.
Respect Jonathan Cooper.
Jalen Nolan Smith. We about to get Myles Garrett.
Speaking of the Eagles, I don't think people notice, but when you played at Oklahoma, you played in like the golden era of Oklahoma with Lincoln Riley there in quarterbacks. You played with Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, and Caleb Williams.
That's some demons right there.
Damn. All right, rank the 3.
K1 is easily the best quarterback I'd play with there. Then I'll probably go with Caleb. And then Hurts would be 3.
Okay.
He's talking about college. He's talking about college.
K1 was the highlight.
Yeah, talk to us about that aura that Kyler Murray had in college. Because I remember he had an opportunity to go like top 5 in baseball.
Yeah, pick 7 in baseball.
And then go to the NFL. Like, he was really a different dude.
Yeah, bro. And like one thing about K1, like you gonna know like he's like one of them because he just walks around like he's that guy. So I mean, and then you can obviously feel that on the field. I mean, he'll outrun anybody on the field with his speed, and then obviously with the throws that he can make. It was pretty like crazy to see that was my first quarterback I would have in college. So just being able to watch him for a year was like pretty dope for sure.
I mean, you can't touch quarterbacks in practice, I'm sure, but like Kyler, even in the NFL, is one of the most elusive quarterbacks. Like when you were practicing against him, was he like, God damn, this dude feels like Michael Vick back there?
Bro, it's like I'm telling you, like he obviously like can outrun like the D lineman and stuff, but like when he gets down the sideline in practice, and even though we're not really trying to get him, like we are at the same time, and like he's still like running off on DBs and stuff. It's like, bro, this guy was made in the lab. Like he's not prepared and stuff.
Now K1's been under allegations of liking video games a lot. I'll say this: you're a big video game guy yourself. You be on Twitch all the time. What's your favorite game?
That I played recently or right now?
Just in general.
I feel like in the last 2 years, Elden Ring was probably the best game I played.
I heard that game's good.
But no, it's really good. And it's hard too. I done had some long nights trying to
I've been seeing some crazy
So are you an RPG guy?
Yeah, I'm definitely that. And because I even started Lies of P too. I don't know if y'all know what that is.
No, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of that same type of game. But also college football 25. I'll be on there. Too, so.
You have to.
Have you played Cyberpunk?
I played Cyberpunk. That was like what 2020.
It came a few years ago. Yeah, it had a bad release. I just bought it like a few months ago.
No, yeah, Cyberpunk was dope. I enjoyed it. I didn't like the ending, at least my version of the ending. But
are you on P5 or are you on Xbox?
I'm on P5 and PC.
Okay, so you had to play Spider-Man, I'm assuming.
You know what's crazy? I was actually playing Spider-Man 2 like a couple days ago, and I put like kind of like midway through the story. I'm like 48% of it done, but I just had to take a break from it just because I was on it too much. So I'm on.
I respect that is discipline, and I respect the hell out of that.
But I'm gonna definitely try to finish it in like the next 2 weeks for sure.
I heard that there was this good game. I haven't gotten a chance to play. I don't know if you heard about it though. It's called Monster Hunters Wild.
I never heard of it.
So like I show Speed streams it a lot, and it looks like it's similar to like Elden Rings and stuff. And I was thinking about giving it a try. Yes.
Yeah, I see some people reviewing it.
It's called Monster Hunters Wild.
I heard performance is shit right now, but they said the game itself is good, but just has a lot of glitches and stuff.
Yeah, I might have to get on. Yeah, I just seen Monster Hunter Wild. Yep. I might have to get on that for sure.
You know what's my favorite thing to do? Talk about Marvel Rivals, but never play it. Like the idea of playing Marvel Rivals, you get to play with all these great Marvel characters. I have it downloaded. Never not once played it.
You got to get on it. I ain't gonna lie. Marvel Rivals is one of the elite games right now.
Who's your character?
It just depends on who I'm running with, like as far as like the guys I be getting online with. But I mostly main like Groot, Johnny Storm, or Rocket.
Oh, Groot is a cheat code. You're building walls.
Groot is definitely a cheat code.
Yeah.
Let me ask, are you a Marvel guy outside of Marvel Rivals or no?
Say it again?
Are you a Marvel guy outside of Marvel Rivals?
100%.
All right. So now let's ask the real hard-hitting questions. Top 5 Marvel characters.
If you say Ant-Man, you're done, and we're closing the script.
He's not even in top 10, top 15.
Yo, respect Ant-Man. He could have beat Thanos by himself. If you know, you know.
Drew, enough.
If you know, you know.
Drew, he's horrible.
Ant-Man will never be in my top 10.
If Ant-Man gets really small, you know where he can go and he can explode Thanos. That's all I'm going to say. He could beat Thanos 1v1.
You're probably not lying. It's just like,
no, yeah. But I'll probably go Hulk number 1. And this is like no power scale, and this is like my favorite characters.
Of course.
Yeah, Hulk, Thor, Black Panther, RP Chadwick Boseman.
What about this, Joel?
Iron Man and Spider-Man.
Spider-Man has to be in everybody's top 5. You know what made me ask that? Because you say Groot's your guy in Marvel Rivals. Groot is in my top 3. I love his character.
Baby Groot was in my top 5 for sure.
I respect that. Yeah. Baby Groot is a legend.
Yeah,
Spider-Man's not my top 5.
Whoa.
He's not my top 5.
You probably the only person I heard her say that, bro.
Not my top 5.
Is Wolverine in your top 5?
No.
What are we doing?
You know who's in my top 5 that you wouldn't know is in my top 5? Cyclops.
Okay, Cyclops cool.
That's valid.
Cyclops cool.
Cyclops.
I'm not going.
Just Johnny Storm, Cyclops, Thor, Captain America, and I'll probably say my 5th would probably be Iron Man.
You got a cool top 5. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's a lot of cards.
I like that top 5.
You know?
If I had to put somebody in my top 5 and take somebody out, I would put Magneto in there, and then I'd probably take out Iron Man or something.
Magneto was sneaky.
If we get into the villains, it really gets messy.
Yeah, it can definitely, because I mean, if we want to talk about characters, Thanos has to be in everybody's top.
You could argue he's one, but that's where it might be a little messy too.
No.
All right, but let's end off the show lightheartedly. Nick, we appreciate you being on the show. Obviously, you know I'm a huge Bronco fan. This is great in and of itself. But don't listen to him. Exactly. That's noise. Now, let's do a King of the Hill offensive lineman edition. Let's show the O-line some love because the Denver Broncos just had probably the best O-line in sports. We're going to leave Garrett Bowles. We're going to leave Mike McGlinchey, our guys, out of the conversation so we don't get no bias involved.
Hey, Drew, what did you say? Best what?
Best offensive line in the league, and I did not stutter.
Okay, big bro, you got it.
Now, first names up. We got Deion Dawkins versus Joe Thuney.
Deion Dawkins.
Deion Dawkins or Colton Miller.
I'm gonna go with Colton.
He's an underrated dog.
Yeah, he is underrated.
I think it's different with just like how the Bills play versus like how he kind of the Colton gets left on the island. I would go Colton.
Colton Miller or Joe Alt.
Cole Miller.
Cole Miller or Charles Cross.
Cole Miller.
Cole Miller or Teron Armstead.
Cole Miller.
Cole Miller or Rashawn Slater.
Rashawn Slater.
Yeah, that's a bad man right there, unfortunately. Yeah. Rashawn Slater or Laramie Tunsil.
Rashawn Slater.
Rashawn Slater or Ronnie Staley.
Rashawn Slater.
Rashawn Slater, Jordan Mailata.
Show some respect here, brother.
Here's the thing. I haven't played against him, so I'm going to have to go Rashawn just off of that fact. But
That's
he's
fair.
too.
That's fair. Wait till you play that boy, man. Woo.
We got him this year. Don't worry.
Hey, Nick, I'm going to DM you after we play out. Just to let you know.
Say less.
All right, so we're going with Rashawn Slater.
Yeah, we're going with
All right, Rashawn Slater or Tyron Smith.
Rashawn Slater.
Rashawn Slater or Penei Sewell.
Coop got a sack against Penei last year, and he kind of did good against them, so I'm going to go with Slater.
Okay, Rashawn Slater or Tristan Wirfs.
Rashawn Slater.
Rashawn Slater or Lane Johnson.
Show some respect.
Lane, he's an OU guy. Lane. He's good.
Now, the last one, Lane Johnson for the King of the Hill, Trent Williams.
Lane Johnson. Oh, wait, time out. Both
I was
of them
going to
OU guys.
say.
Hold on, wait. Both of them OU guys. That's tough. I'm gonna go Lane just because he was healthy this year, but that's tough. Those are two of the better.
That's a coin flip right there. I'm not gonna lie.
Exactly.
Hall of Famers, baby.
Yeah.
Champion. You go with the champion.
Lane got it.
No, yeah, I love the Rashawn Slater just winning back to back to back to back to back to back.
I don't love that
bro.
personally, but he respects him. I gotta respect him.
He's a
It
dog.
is what it is.
How often do the Broncos line you up on the other side and face off against right tackles?
I don't really get that option just because, like, Coops kind of was the vet in the room, so he kind of chose that left side, and that was his. So I didn't really get to see too much of the left side, so I was always like on the right side.
So did you want that side more? Because it feels like there are less you definitely have blue chip guys on the right side, but there are more left tackles that are, I think, better in my opinion.
No, and it's crazy. I didn't really peep that till like I was at the Pro Bowl and I'm talking to Joey Bosa, and he's like, "Yeah, man, like you got to start using that left side more." I mean, those were all the slaps. I'm like, "What's the difference?" He's like, "You don't notice all the All Pro tackles that on the left side?" And I'm like, "Oh, damn, like that is true." But yeah, that was pretty funny when
you guys have to switch sides from time to time. You got to get those matchups.
Nah, 13.5 sacks.
I was gonna say
a boost in the locker room, man.
No, literally, you would have finished with like 18 if you were on the other side.
Man, God willing, man, we gonna see.
year four, and then that max contract's gonna hit. Listen, that's just what you got to do.
Or
don't
ignore him. Here you go.
Give this guy 5.
We gonna have to mute him.
You want to run? You want to come with?
We can win a ring this season. Nick, let me push you my perfect offseason for the Denver Broncos. You let me know what you think. All right.
Talk to me.
All right, here we go.
Watch out.
In a perfect world, at pick 20, I think we need a running back. Pick 20, Ashton Genty falls to us. We get one of the best talents at pick 20. A miracle of God happens. No, second round, we need a tight end. Harold Fannin comes to town. We got a little money. Why don't we bring in Mark Andrews too? Get him another safety blanket. Bo Nix needs all the help that he can get on the offensive side. We got Court still out wide. We know Court's still a dog. Marvin Mims just broke out to the scene. You talked to me about Troy Franklin. We know he can win. We just gotta lock in on the hands just a little bit, and I think that he can do that. Now at the wide receiver position, we also got a little bit of money. The Bucks just said, "Hey, we're not going to tag Chris Godwin." I think that Chris Godwin comes to town. We get a nice receiver next to Cortland Sutton.
It's cute.
And then the last piece, we need a linebacker. I think Bond's going to stay with the Eagles. I think that Bolton, I don't know if I want him just because obviously Kansas City forced me to root for a KC guy. It just doesn't sit right in my spirit. Dre Greenlaw comes to town. Hey, we might have the best defense in the league now.
Yo, Nick, let me pitch you something just a little bit better. Just a little bit better. So you know how you like Troy Franklin. You know, you like Marvin Mims. I'm sure you like AJ Brown and Devontae Smith.
Oh my God, this guy's been quick.
Not better than Troy Franklin and Marvin Mims.
Nick, you trained to say that. I get that. You gotta say that. You trained to say that. You know what I'm saying? I know Bo Nix cool and all. Jalen Hurts. He
Oklahoma, man.
Older. You know, we got Howie. You know, we got some guys over here. I'm saying we got the money. I'm saying we got the city.
I don't know if y'all have the money.
Y'all not gonna have the money. Yo, Nick, how do you just imagine how your stats gonna look when Jalen Carter's eating up the doubles and you 1-on-1, brother? Just imagine that.
We're not worried about no Jalen Carter when we got Zach Allen.
I just had a guy interior that we had two of them actually, Jalen and Zach Allen.
Now you're gonna play with Myles Garrett and Jalen Carter. Just think about that. Just think about that.
Dang, can the trades go through first before we start?
Exactly. We're just hey, Miles
living in fantasy land down there.
Nick, you know Howie. You've been in the league. Howie.
They just won a ring. I understand.
I wish I was like Riv right now, but I can't pitch the Jets to you, brother. I don't want that for you.
y'all got the players. I'm gonna say
Aaron Glenn.
We do.
We got Aaron Glenn, baby.
Y'all got Jermaine Johnson coming back, my guy.
Will McDonald
had a great. Will McDonald, the dog, bro. Yeah. Y'all got some pieces for
Nick. What'd you think of my offseason though?
Very valid. I mean, it kind of addressed like the needs that you know. People say that we have. You know, I can't really comment on that type of stuff, but I mean, I feel like those would be good pieces to bring in.
Wouldn't you like to go to a team with no needs? We don't have any needs, brother. Like just come in and just play. You know what I'm saying? That's just all I'm saying.
Guys are going to year 4 of his contract. No trade rumors. No.
This is what we call greedy. You just want a Super Bowl.
Exactly.
You want more.
That's exactly what I'm seeing.
Nick, I'll tell you what. You play this year out strong. You're gonna be great. I'll call you this summer. I'll call you this summer. We'll talk.
We got a long way to go till then, man. But we gonna see.
thank you so much for being on the show. This was a fantastic interview, and we really appreciate you taking the time out to do this for us.
No, yes, sir. Appreciate y'all again, Joel. Sorry again.
Hey, it's all good. Hey, listen. We all have opinions, and listen, that's just what it was. And you put a lot of work into what you do, so I understand you feeling some type of way about it.
Yo, Nick, how did you actually see like the whole video or like the whatever? Like, how did you see Joel say all that? Like, what? Like,
it was just on my timeline, and I was just like scrolling, and then like I kind of see my name. I'm like, wait, did I just see that? I went back up, and then I seen the tweet. I was like, and I think I can't remember if it was before or after the Chargers game, but
it was after.
Yeah, so I was probably already mad that we lost or something like that. So I had to take it out.
It was just, it was like the perfect storm of like the opponent. You matched up against Rashawn Slater, and it was like, okay, this is the thing right here. No, but it's actually nice hearing the story of how it happened, because I thought like you just searched up your name, so it just popped up on like your For You page.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, because obviously, like, I play for Broncos, stuff like that. So, like, automatically, like, that type of stuff will already kind of be on my feed. So, like, if somebody has a bad game, I'm probably going to see that shit on Twitter, like, whether it's me or somebody else. So, like, I kind of just, like, I just be seeing that already.
Yeah, but even though I said that, though, I respect your game. I didn't think it was, Defensive Player of the Year, but not saying you can't get there. I just didn't think it was that at that specific moment. But I do have a lot of respect for your game and what you did this past season.
No, you're good. You're good.
Year 4, year 3 was a trailer. Year 4 is the movie.
Yeah.
Broncos 2025.
Especially lining up on that other side. Okay.
No, most definitely. We working for it for sure.
What you said, Drew? Year 3 is the trailer.
Year 3 is the trailer. Year 4 is the movie.
Year 5 is the chip year. That's all
I know. Broncos gonna win the chip. I'm calling it right now.
Year 4. Year 4 could be the chip year. Come on,
Nick. I was one of the few that was with y'all all year, man. I was with y'all.
I can vouch for that, Nick. I can vouch for that.
I seen his pick'ems. He was with us for a lot of the time.
That's a fact.
He was last in pick'ems. Not the Broncos, but for some other reasons.
Who was last? I was the last.
Oh, it wasn't?
I was the last.
But Nick,
you were definitely close to last.
Bronco fan, Bronco player. Appreciate you coming on the show, King. Really means a lot to me.
No, anytime, y'all. For real, it was good being on here. It was good.
That was All-Pro Pro Bowler Nik Bonitto who joined the show. It was a great time having him on. We didn't meet through the best of circumstances, but it was great nonetheless, and I'm glad that he was able to come on and do the show.
I'm sorry, Rib, but I'm glad that Joel was such a great sport, obviously, and me busting his chops. We talk so often about, would you say it to the player's face? No, but Joel's a real ass dude, and so is Nik Bonitto too, for obviously being so lighthearted about it. And it was a nice, fun conversation.
I can't wait for the day I'll go face to face with one of my
your ops,
my athlete enemies, man. I just can't wait to go man.
Your athlete enemies, like when Dehls, you're muted.
It always happens this way. You're muted.
Who are your top 3 athlete enemies?
Like that, I constantly just Kevin Durant.
Haliburton?
Kevin Durant's obviously my number one guy,
which is crazy.
It is, but he's obviously my number one guy.
Unfortunately, Kevin Durant is just one of those guys that I think that if he ever knows that like you said something about him, he just won't ever interact.
Probably not. But if I see him in the street, I'll definitely be like, yo, you know me. And
I gotta take the glazing to a different level with him. So, he's like, okay, I'll do it for Joel, and then I'll see Rip face to face.
I definitely want to sit down and have a conversation with Hallie and talk to him about his game. Just one-on-one, just speak to him about it.
And how great he's been.
Sure, yeah, we could have a conversation.
You don't respect pure point guards, which is, astonishing to me.
That's just not true. I've actually have the most respect on here when it comes to pure point guards.
So where's the lack of respect for Haliburton coming from?
His game. You've never actually asked me how I feel about his actual game.
I feel like
we have multiple times.
Bag guys. Just Hallie doesn't have a bag, so that just he doesn't move you.
I think he's a top 12 point guard in the league.
Top 12? God,
that's disrespectful.
So. He's like top 10.
Top 12.
Was that fucking a top 50 player?
I think he's a top 50 player.
He's reclaimed the spot in the top 12 after his last 2 months of play, is what you're saying.
I think he was always naturally a top 12 player. He's just in a really disgusting slump.
Darius Garland or Tyrese Haliburton?
I've always stood in the same spot. Darius Garland.
Now, who you take?
Darius Garland. I don't do what you do, bro. I don't change after a season. I need like.
Whoa, what are you talking about?
Seasoning.
DeJounte Murray was better than Garland.
Who?
DeJounte Murray was better than Garland last year.
Oh, he hasn't even played, so I don't even want to talk about him. Yeah, I don't even want to talk about him. He hasn't played. It's unfortunate.
Jesus.
Yeah. No,
that's a guy you once wished happy birthday to. We can't forget that.
I just don't. The whole premise of if you're better for one season, but the other 3-4 seasons you've been better, I don't jump to hoops when you're better that one season. With Hallie and DG, it's always been a conversation between them over the last 2 or 3 seasons. I've always leaned on the same side of the conversation. But Hallie's a top 35 player in basketball. I just like to troll him a lot, really a lot, because his back is funny.
On this episode, we're going to talk about some NFL stuff, and then we're going to talk about the one thing that happened in the NBA that I think is pressing news, and that's just the Mavericks being cursed overall. But we'll also talk about other things related to basketball on the next podcast, which won't be too far off from when this one drops. So we just had this Nik Bonitto interview lined up for a while, and that's why we're doing virtual, because it's just easier to talk to them virtually.
I had a question because I watched live reaction on Sunday. Saw some things, saw a good conversation. Didn't have any meaningful pushback. I wanted to ask you, Dehls, though, are you concerned about Jrue Holiday's finger? Because it is a really weird injury that, he's going to play through it, but it might, linger all year. And that kind of sucks for a guy that's, going to get left open due to obvious circumstances of his team's really fucking good. So, are you how concerned are you?
Yeah, thing is, I was a bit concerned even before the injury because he has not been the same shooter as he was last season. Right, this was a dude who was one of the most lethal shooters, especially in the corner, and he's been below average, and that's put it nicely. But he practiced today. I don't think he's going to play tonight, play the Blazers, I think, or the Raptors or something. But he did practice, so he's probably going to be back within the next week. What gives me hope is Lou Dort has had the same injury this year, and he's played through it, and he's been shooting, pretty well for Lou Dort standards, right? He's been close to 40%. He had a couple really big shots last night against Houston. So I think more than anything, he just needs to find his stroke again, man, because if he's going to miss those corner threes, if he's going to shoot 30%, which is basically what he's been all season long, offense will look a little different than did last season, right? Because you can leave Jrue Holiday open in the corner, but through one season, for the Celtics, he's a playoff riser. So I'm not going to put anything past Jrue Holiday, man. That's a champion.
Yeah, I respect that. That was really all. Somebody on here, he betrayed me, just went on the other side. It was unfortunate because we had a moment. I remember in 2022, we had a moment and we went to the finals and we won the whole damn thing. And potentially we could have done it again this year, but he sold me out. He ran quick. He saw adversity. He saw adversity at the first crack. The first crack of adversity. He ran.
The thing is, this has only been,
and he realized he couldn't help me and ran.
I think this has only been talked about in our group chat. I don't know if the fans know what you're talking about.
Oh no, it has not. It has not been talked about publicly yet. And just to update the public on it, what happened is that I stand firm on some values and some ethics. And those values and those ethics are, I'm a big advocate of responsible gambling. And then when the Celtics took a 25-3 lead over the Cavaliers, I looked at my bet slip and I saw that I put a large amount of money on the Cavaliers to make the finals. And I thought to myself, oh, this is irresponsible gambling. And I had to be a model citizen, not only for myself, but for everybody. And I had to cash out that bet. And the Cavaliers ended up making a comeback in a game that we saw Donovan Mitchell outplay Tatum in the fourth quarter, regardless of Tatum's stat line. And also, by the way, the very next game, Tatum had that great game. He had a stinker against Denver. It's something that we see all too often when Mr. Jason Tatum. Oh, they did win. They did win.
Yeah, bro, I got to cash out. Why did y'all go crazy like that? Fuck. Tatum is so disrespected, man. Shaking my head. Oh, just.
Tatum is so good.
I don't know how you have morals and
never pretty much only a 12-point game. Maybe I should place this bet again. Demon Tatum is home, face of the league. Tatum is really different, man. That man is goated. I'm disgusted.
We're seeing in real time the flips that are happening. But I made a good investment because I wouldn't call it an investment. It's just still gambling. But I cashed out, and then I put some money on Luka because I know my GOAT wouldn't let me down, and I have more faith in him than the Cavaliers, stepping up to the plate. And he didn't let me down. I made some good money. I took his 2.5 3-pointers. I took him to have 27 points. I took a Lakers W as well, and they're the second seed, baby.
Yo, Dehls, funny moment. Drew Dehls, maybe you guys are the best when it comes to remembering things. I drink a lot, so that is a struggle for me. He just said, I quote, that he's a responsible gambler, correct?
He did say that.
He definitely.
He texted in the chat, I don't support gambling 100%. And I just find that interesting how you are this gambler and you don't support it. And you said you had morals. When it comes to the NBA, you do not have a single moral at all.
We're all human. We're all human. We all make mistakes, and it's about learning from those. And hey, listen, before the end of the season or at the start of the playoffs, I might be back with you with the Cavaliers. I want to see more. You know what has me scared?
Flip-flop so many times.
You know what has me scared? The Celtics have me scared because I'm scarred from last season. I'm really scarred from last season, and what I want for more than anything in the world to happen is for the Celtics to lose. Do I think they will? I don't know. I don't know.
That Dallas team, they weren't going to win.
What scarred me was the fact that Jason Tatum was mid and they still won.
Yeah, because they played bum-ass Dallas.
And all it takes is for KP to be healthy and for Tatum to actually be consistent. And then we're talking about a team that can't be beaten.
Kyrie stinking it up. Luka stinking it up. PJ
Luka didn't stink it up.
Bunch of stinking ass, doodling ass everywhere. Just ass. Just ass everywhere. That's what happened.
There's no player that has false narratives on them like Luka Doncic, man.
Oh, stop. Isn't that the truth?
He was bleeding. His leg was messed up. I got
it. He was. There's footage. There's pictures. There's pictures.
Listen, the playoffs start in April. That's the day where I really cash checks and I'll notice things.
The only thing that I'm
60 games in. What more do we need to see between Cleveland and Boston?
The only thing that I have faith in completely is OKC making it out the West. That's the only thing I have complete faith in.
Can't beat the Thunder? The Thunder team?
Bro.
Wait, who? Which
the Lakers.
It would be tough. It would be tough.
Drew, question. Because you're 50-50 on, you have no emotional ties to Cleveland. You have no emotional ties to Boston. Me and Dehls are biased. So let's take us out of the equation. What has OKC showed you that Cleveland hasn't?
I'm going to be honest with you. They've actually maybe shown a little bit more on the offensive side, you could argue.
Maybe.
Like OKC has the best player between those two teams.
Oh, by far. By far.
But Cleveland has a better offense, I think.
That's what I'm saying.
And OKC has a better defense.
Better offense, and then defense, you give it to OKC, but we're still talking about an elite defense by the Cavaliers.
But also, let's
8 games up on the Celtics.
Yeah.
Also, let's mention the fact, number one. So you're telling me you trust Cleveland more than OKC, Riff?
My premise on it is, where is the trust? How do you trust OKC more? Like, what this season specifically, what have they shown you more? Cleveland has beat just as many good teams. Cleveland has been just as, actually probably more dominant. They've had the most winning streaks this season.
Well, number one,
All-Stars.
I think SGA is the best player between those two teams.
I agree.
I think him being an MVP player is a big difference maker. Number two, they've been able to win these many games mostly without Chet.
That's fair.
And now they have him. That's like if Cleveland went almost the entirety of the season with no Mobley and they were this good.
That's fair.
And also just the competition out West. Like, I think the Lakers are the second best team in the West. I think there's a pretty big gap between the Lakers and the Celtics. So if you think they're the second best team.
You think it's a big gap between the Lakers?
We're going to find out on Thursday, Playboy.
Yeah. Saturday.
No, we're going to find out on Thursday, Playboy. We're going to see that gap.
You want to play Saturday?
I don't see
Thursday.
Is there a playoff gap between SGA and Donovan Mitchell?
Playoff gap. I mean, we don't have much information to go off of with SGA, but I think there's a player gap. Yes,
player gap for sure.
The Knicks on Thursday.
Player gap for sure.
Yes.
Like in a matchup against Boston, I think both of them can have their way.
Yeah, but then OKC, let's just say, I just think they have better defensive guard play. Like you have Lou Dort and Alex Caruso who can really suffocate the perimeter in a way that Cleveland really can't. Darius Garland is going to get picked apart in that matchup. The OKC doesn't really have any defensive liabilities in the way that Cleveland does.
Who's guarding
Rick,
LeBron?
You think the Lakers are in the same tier? Because right now I have 2 different tiers. I think tier 1 is OKC, Cleveland, and Boston. I think the Lakers are top of tier 2. You think the Lakers are in that first tier?
No. Okay. Then the Lakers are top. I'll agree with you. I think they're top of tier 2. I think Denver's in tier 2.
Who has the best duo in the NBA?
It's the Lakers.
Who's the only team with 2 top 7 players in the NBA on the same team?
I mean, it's the Lakers, and the Lakers right now, they are undefeated against teams.
You had 2 top 10 players before.
It was different now that it's Luka as opposed to AD.
Well, Luka hasn't played that great.
Well, Luka does raise their ceiling, and Luka against teams that are 500 or better, the Lakers are undefeated.
I mean,
with Luka.
Yeah,
with Luka
for sure. No, I think. Listen, you want to put yourselves in tier 1 to tier 2. That's fine. I look at the totality. Boston's been dominant all year. Cleveland's been dominant all year. OKC's been dominant all year. They don't have a real Cleveland's real weakness, I guess, is a POA. But in terms of their front court, their back court on offense, and then defensively at the rim, they're great. The Lakers still have a bit of a question mark with their front court, and what are they going to look like? I think their defense is good, but we have to still see it be a little bit more tested. Boston, we know how Boston is, and OKC is OKC. So I still think those 3 teams are the clear-cut best teams in the league.
No, they are. I think OKC just has a lot of depth. I think the Lakers' depth is kind of what scares me a little bit, but I think JJ Redick is in a lot of good with their defense in a way that they just run around and swarm offenses. Like they play a lot of zone, and they are very disciplined in how they defend as well. I think that's a very tough matchup.
What's up with our depth? We just lost Reeves and Rui, and we just smoked the Clippers back to back.
Well, the depth is, comparatively to the top teams or to OKC. If you go and you make a list of who are the top 10 players in that series, I think there will be 7 OKC players on that list.
It's a great thing about playoff basketball. We really start to shrink down those lineups.
I'll be honest, the Clippers with Amir Coffey starting almost beat the Celtics. It's really just off nights.
Because if we look at the top 10 players in the Lakers and OKC series, number 1 is I think at his very best it could be Luka or LeBron.
SGA, brother. We're talking about right now.
It could be SGA. I think the clear top 3 is SGA, Luka, LeBron, whatever order you want to have it. Yeah. That's the clear top 3. After that, I would go J-Dub or Chet, and then I would go Reeves.
Okay, that's a conversation.
And then I would go Hartenstein, and then I would go like the next couple players be OKC players.
Where's Rui?
Lou Dortz is ahead of Rui.
I get it.
So too.
I don't know, man. Rui's been 50-40 this year.
I think Lou Dortz is giving you 40% from the 3-ball line.
He is, yeah.
Like giving you elite.
He was also, am I not mistaken? Lou Dort shot the 3-ball well last regular season too.
I don't think 40 though. I don't think he's ever shot 40.
I think he did. I did.
He don't get the respect like other shooters do though.
He's not gonna get closed out.
That's what I'm saying. And we saw
last year
huge issue for him. He shot 39% from 3.
Yeah, last year he shot 39%. In the playoffs, he shot 39% from 3 too last year as well.
He's also just giving you, high level elite lockdown Luka defense.
Yeah.
Also, Dorian Finney-Smith, respect him.
Yeah, I think the Lakers have a good team, but I think OKC's their supporting cast is just a little bit better.
Caruso or DFS, Drew?
Oh, Caruso, you know my opinion on that.
What are we talking about, man?
You know my opinion. I'm being honest.
Taysom Wallace or DFS? Fuck that. Aaron Wiggins or DFS?
Oh no, DFS, bro.
Oh,
he's fucking good.
DFS in a Laker uniform has been great. I respect what Aaron Wiggins been doing. That's why this is a conversation. I can hear it.
That's like a 50-50, 60-40.
Taysom Wallace, that's a good player. I would like him on the Lakers. I'm not going to say you're wrong. I think DFS, for what his job has been this year, shoot the 3-ball with the Lakers, shoot the 3-ball. He's done that at a great efficient clip. And then defense, from the minute he's been on the Lakers, we've really shifted as a defense. Not because mainly him, but he's one of the main reasons. The main 3 reasons for our defense really taking that change. It's him, it's Vando, and Gabe.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it helps when you have a player that's willing to rotate out to shooters, and D'Lo really wasn't giving any effort defensively. Like, that is a black hole on defense that was very apparent for them. And since DFS has come in, he's done all those little things that have gone under the radar that has just made them a complete team. So that's how I kind of see the landscape of it. The only team I really feel comfortable with is OKC. Boston, they're just the most talented team top to bottom. They're like they're OKC with championship experience.
That's a fact. But that's why I still ride with the Celtics. You can't go against the one reigning champ, and two, they haven't fallen off. The only concern is if they're healthy. And that's kind of the concern with, to be fair, all three top teams.
And I think Cleveland, they have a realistic shot. And like I said, I'm going to go back and forth on it. I think the Celtics and Cavs is that close. It really just depends. I said this last year and it didn't matter. I think it really just depends on the version you get of Jason Tatum. If he's going to get outplayed by Donovan Mitchell, then the Cavaliers, they could win that series. But if Tatum plays like how he could play, I don't know how the Celtics lose that series.
Joel, enlighten me. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
No, Tatum's going to have to play well. Like, this Cavs team is going to be the best comp he's had in the last couple of years.
Tatum's going to kill Cleveland?
Yes, he should.
What did he average, like 30, 35 against them, 34 this year?
That's not going to be the difference in them winning, in my opinion. Like, I think
Tatum's going to play a big role in that series, man, because he has not been efficient as a shooter. I mean, like, obviously he gives you playmaking. We know how great he can be. He had moments where he was killing on Friday, but for the most part, overall, he's been a pretty inefficient player against Boston.
Yeah, I think there's more question marks about how the Cavaliers' top players will perform. Donovan Mitchell's not a question, but Jared Allen, I think when the Celtics go into those 5-out lineups, he is somebody that might not get the most minutes in that series and be in those lineups. And Darius Garland. So if two of Cleveland's top 4 players, there's some question marks with them. I just think there's more things that have to break Cleveland's way for them to win.
It's gonna be fun, man. Can't wait.
Can't wait till Mobley kills you guys again.
And listen, I'm looking forward to hopefully the Celtics being dethroned and losing. I'm looking forward to that.
I mean, they'll make their 12th ECF in like 13 years.
Unless the Bucks have something to say about it.
This guy didn't even say the Knicks.
Spelled to ask.
The Knicks are gonna play the Cavaliers. It's pretty much a.
Nah, it's 1-8.
Oh, it's Celtics. Celtics.
Yeah, they'll play the Celtics, dude.
Oh yeah,
you're fucked.
Yeah.
You didn't have the Knicks beating the Cavs either. I don't know why you tried to jump over that.
I know. What is he doing?
But I think it's easier to beat the Cavs than the Celtics.
Haven't said much about it.
No, well, I think it's easier. I'd rather play the Cavs than the Celtics.
Yeah, you remember this? You know what this means?
What's that?
It must be fun to root for the best teams in the league, man.
40.
Oh wait, we do.
Well, they beat y'all by 40.
Yeah, we beat them in the playoff series
2 years ago.
Okay.
That doesn't even.
The core is pretty much. The cores are pretty much. Yeah. That's actually a bonus for us.
No, you don't even like this team.
This Cavs team is so much better.
But anything is better than Julius Randle.
Cat on defense? I don't know.
No, yes, even Cat is better than Julius Randle.
In defense, I don't know. That looks fun to me.
Hey, Riv, Hallie's got 20 and a half.
Yo, he's been hooping.
Yo, very quietly, all of our teams are amazing outside of Ribs, because I don't know who you're.
Well, he's got the Thunder in his back pocket, the Cavs in his back pocket.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if I'm going with his team, it's Golden State.
You're over the Thunder?
No, I'm really more of an SGA fan. I'm not really a fan of anybody else.
So you were a Cavs fan or just a Garland fan?
No, Cavs. It's
Mobley. You just got mad. Yeah, you got mad heads.
Mobley. Okoro is like, I'm there.
It's Ty Jerome. It's DeAndre Hunter.
I'm not gonna say those
it's
guys.
Kenny Atkinson.
But I'm there. But okay, see, nah. I love SGA. I was there with SGA, but I ain't really a fan of anybody else. So I wouldn't say okay. So like my real teams, like teams I root for multiple people, is Golden State. But that's just my team. Golden State, and you got Cleveland, you got Detroit.
You root for multiple people on Golden State or just Steph?
Nah, Steph, but he matters. Like he's like 5 people.
I know.
You got his ass. Yeah, Golden State, Cleveland.
So are you a Warriors fan after Steph retires?
Yeah, I'll stay.
Wow.
I'll stay for sure. I'll stay.
You're gonna stay for the Jonathan Kuminga franchise player props.
If they're mid for 10 years like the Bulls, he's out of there.
Yeah, listen, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I feel like I jinxed the Bulls, so I don't want to go back and jinx them. Let them be happy without me. Like let them
jinx them. They just don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah, let them enjoy themselves, man. You know, I'm locked in on where I'm locked in. Memphis, I'm locked in on Memphis. I feel like I got a good 5 right now. A good 5-6 teams.
Now, I think the biggest news that happened in the NBA was that Kyrie Irving tore his ACL against the Sacramento Kings, and there's been multiple things that have been said about this. I think, his load, of course, since Luka has gotten traded, has skyrocketed. But It was just a freak injury. He finished off his free throws. And I think this kind of puts the Mavericks in a tumultuous place because Daniel Gafford's hurt. Derek Lively's hurt. Anthony Davis is hurt. They're probably going to shut him down for the season. And now Kyrie Irving tore his ACL and he has a player option. So now his Mavericks future is also uncertain. It feels like the worst possible scenario that could have happened to the Dallas Mavericks ended up happening to them.
Yeah.
One of the crazy. I'm sorry, brother. Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't know if you were locked in right now. It feels like they're cursed, man. Like Mavericks fans have said this from the jump. Really, the whole NBA landscape has said, how do you trade Luka Doncic? And we don't have to go into that conversation. But when you make such a boneheaded move, such a stupid move, I don't want to say, first of all, prayers to Kyrie, right? This is somebody who is, one of the most influential players in today's NBA. When you think about all of the young prospects coming up, especially guards, Kyrie is probably right up there with Steph Curry in terms of players that these young guys model their games after. And he's just, such a legend in the game. So hopefully he can recover quickly. Hopefully he get back to the same player he was. Because, this is a guy that's, 32 years old? That is a smaller guard coming off a major injury. So what we saw him, because he was playing at an all-NBA level this season, right, with the load he was taking on, especially since Luka got moved. So obviously, first and foremost, praying that Kyrie could get back to what he was this past season. But for Dallas, man, it really does feel like when it goes bad, it goes terrible. Like, this is not just trading Luka Doncic. This is ever since you have traded Luka Doncic, everything has fucking gone to shit. Quentin Grimes had a game where he dropped fucking 40 points, and Quentin Grimes is playing good for you, right? Like, you've had injuries to everyone that we've mentioned, Anthony Davis, Gafford, now, of course, Kyrie Irving, but even Caleb Martin, who they traded for, is also banged up. Like, every single move that they have made, or every single important player, to even mention Derek Lively, has gone injured this year. And I really do feel bad for Mavericks fans. And if you want to go be a fan of another team, I think you have every right to do that, because what they're experiencing right now is something that I don't think any fan base should really be going through. And it reminds me of, shout out to the baseball fans out there, the curse of the Bambino. When Babe Ruth got moved from the Red Sox to the Yankees, who goes down as the best player in MLB history for basically the last 100 years, and he goes to the biggest rival, even though Lakers and Mavericks probably aren't that level, but you just don't give away a guy of that caliber, because then the Red Sox didn't win a damn World Series for 100 years, and they finally broke the curse. But that's what it feels like if you're a Mavericks fan. That's what it feels like for me on the outside looking in. And the future of this team is up in the air, man. I think the future of Jason Kidd, the future of Kyrie Irving, the future of Anthony Davis, the future of them staying in Dallas, all of this is up in the air right now, and it all goes back to Trey and Luka.
Dude, W comp, because 1,000%. Me and my dad were talking about this, and immediately what he said was, this is Babe Ruth getting traded to the New York Yankees. And you saw all the results that followed after trading that for the Red Sox and how much the Yankees were able to win. Now, that usually, now if I'm going to translate that to the Los Angeles Lakers, means that we're destined to win some championships. That could be this season. Who knows? That being said, being serious about the Dallas Mavericks situation, this absolutely sucks. Kyrie Irving was having an amazing season. He was balling out. He was the lone saving grace for the Dallas Mavericks fans and just for the Dallas Mavericks organization as a whole. And now you lose Kyrie to a gut-wrenching torn ACL. Of course, prayers. Hope you're doing all right, King. Speedy recovery. Game's better when you're on the basketball court. The fact that he was able to stay in the game, shoot those 2 free throws, he truly is a gamer. He's a sportsman. The guy just cares about and loves the game of basketball. You can never question his heart for the game as well. So when you look at it from the future of the Dallas Mavericks, it definitely becomes a little bit gloomy, because Kyrie Irving, he was destined to get a max contract at the end of the season. That now becomes a question mark. Anthony Davis played 1 game, 3 quarters for the Dallas Mavericks, was all world. There's reports that he may not return for the rest of the season. You got 3 quarters, let me be fair, 3 quarters out of watching Kyrie and Anthony Davis together. It was fantastic. And since that, we've been left with nothing but terrible news for the Dallas Mavericks. Now, I think all you're left to do is tank the rest of the season. We've seen the Mavericks do that in years past when Luka was injured. They sat him basically the rest of the season so that they would get their pick. Ended up turning into Derek Lively, who has been amazing for them when he is on the court. He's a player that obviously has missed an extended period of time. You lose Gafford too. All the pieces started to fall down. And Dehls, like you mentioned, the icing on the cake. Why in God's name did you trade Quentin Grimes? Trading Quentin Grimes made no sense. It was a move that did not need to be made. You said that you made this move for Anthony Davis and Max Christie for defensive purposes. That is our identity. QG is a 3-and-D wing, or a 3-and-D player, excuse me. He fits that mold, exactly what you wanted. He was playing really strong basketball for you. There was no reason to move him, and now you see him playing solid basketball on the 76ers. Like, nobody was surprised. Nico Harrison has gotten constant slander, and truthfully, it'll never end, and I hope it never does. He has cursed and plagued this franchise. He should be fired yesterday, and everything that has transpired outside of Kyrie Irving, because obviously that was a freak injury, I'm putting blame on Nico Harrison.
Here we go. Listen, I think the beautiful thing about this new world we have, this new medicine, is the injury isn't going to be too crazy. I think Kyrie will be able to recover from it. I think he'll still be okay. Dallas' season is done. I think we've kind of understood that. I think with them being so banged up, dealing with injuries, it's okay to shut down AD for the season, kind of let him get that rest. I agree with you, Drew. I think trading Quentin Grimes kind of didn't make any sense. But Dallas has been in a not making sense mood for about 2 to 3 weeks now.
Bingo.
So anything they do right now isn't making sense. And now you can see that all the bad juju is starting to come their way. I mean, losing Kyrie, I think he was averaging 39.3 minutes a game over his last 3 or 4 games. They were really ramping him up. And that's also not just because of trading Luka, but AD being out. And you trading AD, he is a guy who's been injury prone throughout his career. He always gets these nagging, aggravating injuries. And Kyrie's been through the same. He's been dealing with nagging injuries throughout his season. So I think for real, you got to look at the season as a failure, as a wash for Dallas. It's unfortunate because you walked into the season. I felt like you got better in the offseason. You had a real chance to possibly repeat back to the finals or at least make it a really, really tough outing to the WCF. Even with Kyrie and AD, you had an opportunity to be a dark horse, had an opportunity to really upset a team. Now you're sitting there, you're leaving Dallas Mavericks fans in shambles, upset, head down, because now Kyrie's out for the season, probably out till about December-ish of next season. AD's probably going to get shut down. And now you have just a couple guys who, they rely on the star power. They rely on the star players to get them going, get them ramped up. Clay came here to play with star players. You traded Luka. You know what I'm saying? Like, Najee Marshall probably came here for Luka and the Kyrie pair. He did not come here for this. So it's a tough situation. Like you mentioned, Drew, like you mentioned, Joel, it sucks for Kyrie. He was having a career year. Like, this was probably going to be one of his best seasons of his career this late in his career. He was one of the best point guards in the league, averaged north of 23 points a game. He was astoundingly proficient. He was doing his thing, and you just unfortunately lose all that. And, going into a contract year, I don't think he's going to leave. I think they'll offer him some good money, and being as if he's coming off an injury, he'll probably take that money and just stay. But it does suck for Dallas Mavericks fans, and they've done nothing for me. So I genuinely feel bad for him because I feel like this was a team that could have, another great team in the West that we could have had that could have made a playoff series elite.
Yeah, there's just no way that somebody can convince me that politics haven't played a major role in the Mavericks' downfall and trading Luka specifically. I think that the new ownership has had a clear agenda that they're trying to get off right now. There was already a report that said they're going to raise ticket prices next year. I think they're trying to tank the franchise's value. So it'll make it easier to relocate or try to push the city into doing what they want, which is creating casinos in the arenas.
I'm not trying to get into any back and forth on this. If that's the case, that is truly the most embarrassing thing I've maybe ever heard in my life. How in God's name do we feel it's beneficial to be worse? As now I'm the new owner of the team, I want my team to be as dog shit as humanly possible. That is the most embarrassing, mind-numbing stuff that I've heard in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it, though, is that in the NBA, if an owner has a team that is bad, they are making more money because they are pocketing more money. They're making more revenue because they don't have to pay these players this exorbitant amount of money. So you're pocketing more revenue, and it doesn't matter if a team is bad or good. Every single NBA franchise's value is going to keep inflating in the next 10 years. In the next 10 years, an NBA team, regardless if they're shit or they're not, they're worth more money. And that's because the entirety of the league is continuing to grow. So you have a team like the Bobcats and then the Hornets, who their value is just increased. They have been terrible, but because the league's value is increasing, theirs increases as well. And that's why ownership matters so much in sports, because if you're stuck with a bad owner, these are the type of things that can happen. They make decisions not based off the product and the fans' enjoyment, but they make decisions for their pockets.
It's insane. The goal is to win. The goal is to hoist the Larry at the end of the season. What kind of nonsense is this?
There's some owners that just don't have like a lot of money, right? I think that's a big issue with the Bengals, just relating to the NFL. They just don't have a lot of money, so don't want to give out a lot of guaranteed money. This Mavericks ownership's got money, right? It's not an issue that they just don't have the capital to give these contracts out. They absolutely do.
Yeah, that's why I think, the Luka trade was shocking, because it just didn't make any sense, and it still doesn't make any sense. But, it is what it is at this point. There's videos on YouTube about like the conspiracy theories about what this ownership really wants to do. And it's unfortunate that Mavericks fans have been caught in this crossfire of loving a team and being attached to a team, and ownership really just not giving a shit about it and just tearing it down.
You can trade Luka. You can try and really make your team worse, but you can also still have future assets. Like, that's also a possibility. No, I just think that in this case, Joel, multiple things can be true. Maybe that what you're saying is true, but at the same time, you also botched a trade. You did not get maximum value for your player. You tried to make a win now move, which is why I can't allow this nonsense of, oh no, they tried to purposely make their team worse. No, I think they tried to make an all-in move in their eyes that makes zero sense. I'm not giving Nico Harrison a pass here by saying ownership wanted you to be worse. I'm not giving him that benefit of the doubt. No, he made an egregiously bad trade, and I'm not giving him an out.
If I'm Nico and I'm in there and they tell me trade, no, fire me.
I think it's just very, like, I don't know. Nico Harrison made a terrible trade, but based on his track record before he made this trade, I don't know. I just find it very hard to believe that he was this stupid about it. Maybe he was. Maybe he really wanted Anthony Davis. But I just think all the signs around how this trade happened, they didn't negotiate with anybody else. It was only the Lakers. It definitely feels like there were some forces outside of his control in play, and who knows what was there for him. But all the reporting of the Maverick side of this after Luka was traded about just his work ethic issues, about him maybe being hesitant to re-sign in Dallas, like all of those have been proven to be untrue, and Luka very well thought he was going to be in Dallas for his entire career. I think the only thing that changed was the ownership, because even if a GM wants to make a trade, that has to get okayed by the ownership. I don't think if Mark Cuban was the majority owner, he allows Nico Harrison to make that trade. I think the Dumonts allowed him to make that trade, and I think that's part of the problem too.
I want to ask a quick question. I want to have a quick conversation, because there's another team on the other side that's going to shut down a player probably for the season to work on his knee, and that's Joel Embiid. And he's probably going to shut down. They're probably going to shut down Paul George for the season too. Joel Embiid is he's going to go down in NBA history, and as just an interesting guy to place, because when you look at the talent in the regular season, everything is there. The post-up game, elite. The back to the basket, elite. The face-up in the mid-range, elite. He can hit the three ball. The handle is sound. He may not be the best at playmaking, but he was getting better.
Got better.
Reading double teams. He was getting better at seeing the floor. Really elite rebounder. Elite rim protector. Not the best in drop, but he's a big dude. Then you get to the playoffs. Everything drops down. Can you assess it to injuries? Can you assess it to just he's not a playoff performer? There's guys in the NBA history that just aren't playoff performers. That's just somewhere they aren't the best at. Now we're sitting here, and would you guys consider, or would you guys think Joel Embiid, like where do you have Joel Embiid? Because he has an MVP, but he doesn't have the playoff success you would like from a guy as talented as himself. But the excuse is gonna be, well, he's never really been injured. He's never really been healthy going into a playoff series. So is he like, in terms of what ifs, where do we stand with Embiid? Is he a what if, or he's just? I'm so confused on his player arc. I don't know where he would be.
I feel like you have a firm answer on this, Riv. I feel like you know where you stand on this, but I will say this. I think, yes, what if Embiid didn't have injury concerns will always be a what if with him. But he has not performed in the playoffs. Against the Raptors in 2019, he got locked up by Marc Gasol, and he was a clear negative for them. Against the Atlanta Hawks, they were up against the Hawks, and in the fourth quarters, he didn't play well, and that's a big reason why they choked, along with Ben Simmons forgetting how to play basketball, and that's why the Hawks made the Eastern Conference Finals. There's definitely more opportunities for Embiid than not for him to have a better reputation in the playoffs, and it hasn't happened. I think two things can be true. I think Joel Embiid is a player that was nagged by injuries that we never got to fully realize his full ceiling because of those injuries. I also think that he's a clear playoff underperformer.
I want to say, from what he showed me last season, I'm optimistic of what can be if he were to be healthy come playoff time. He was not healthy. He played through Bell's palsy, and we watched him have a 50-point playoff game. Now, he was injured for a good portion of the season. That's the reason why the Sixers were even in that position in the first place as the 7th seed. We saw how amazing he was his MVP season. Even then, that's a year that he was unhealthy in the postseason. And I'm not going to give him a pass for losing to the Celtics, especially because they could have closed out on their home court. So I'll say that being consistent, Joel, what you're saying in the past with Embiid's playoff history is also sound. But from what he has shown us in the regular season and how great he looked last year in the postseason, I feel like even still, regardless of the injury history, kind of like we did with Kawhi, the only difference is obviously Kawhi is such a huge playoff riser that he gets a lot more leeway in these conversations, but it's the opposite. He's not really active in the regular season, but come playoff time, you can rely on him, maybe not of recent, but in the majority of his career with Embiid, he's pretty reliable come regular season for a majority of his career, not as in recent. And then come playoff time, his body shuts down. I still have Joel Embiid as a minimum top 10 player, but I'm not going to drop him all the way lower than that because when he is healthy, when he is on the floor, it's undeniable. He's still one of the best in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's on like a Derrick Rose, Brandon Roy in terms of like what ifs, right? Because he gave us multiple years of playing like 60 games. He went like 6 straight years of giving us 50 plus, which, listen, you play 50 out of 82. That's not great, but it's also outside of those first 2 seasons where he just completely didn't play. He played majority of the other seasons. His third year, he only played 30 games. So like really those first 3 years were super injury prone. And these last 2 have been also pretty injury prone. But those middle years, he's given us, 50 to 60, 65 games most of the seasons. And when we saw he was at his peak, this is a guy that was a, top 3 MVP candidate for multiple seasons. And he won the MVP a couple of seasons ago, even if people want to call it a pity MVP because Joker already won back-to-back. So they just felt like we can't give it to him once again. But in terms of like history, where does Joel Embiid rank? He's not like an all-time great, right? Like this is a guy that dominated regular seasons, but he was also someone that was super injury prone and someone that really didn't show up in the playoffs. Injuries aside, right? It's obvious that in all of these, or basically most of these playoff runs, he was banged up. Like Joel mentioned, like he did get locked up by Marc Gasol. He struggled in multiple playoff series against Al Horford to the point where they went and signed Al Horford, so they didn't have to go up against him a few seasons back. So in an all-time ranking, where does Embiid rank? Like, this is not a guy I'm looking at like, damn, man, like if he just would have been healthy for X, Y, and Z, he would have been a top 10 guy of all time. I don't know if we see that just because we have a large sample size, a decently large sample size of him in the playoffs compared to some of these other what ifs where they just don't have that type of leeway.
Okay. I can understand that answer. Drew, you say top 10 player. And I think it's fair if you're talking about the player before. But this season, when he has played, he has not looked good. It has not been a consistent thing. Going forward, he's probably not going to be healthy ever. So when does he? Because I get the whole Kawhi leeway thing, but Kawhi, like you mentioned, gets the benefit of the doubt because when he plays, he's always elite, and in the playoffs, he's amazing. When does Joel Embiid get that tag taken away?
It's tough because I know how great he is, and obviously we all know how great Joel Embiid is when he's 100% healthy. I'm trying to be fair and keep him in ranking, but I can't think of putting players that are not better than him above him off the sole fact that I know how great he is when he's on the court. And that's kind of where I'm at. But I understand the logic of if he's not going to be on the court, then you can't rank him. I think I'm okay with that. I'm fine with not ranking him until he's back on the court because that's kind of what we've done with Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard doesn't get spoken about like a top 20, 25 player when for a majority, even while he was missing time, we had him as a top 10 player. But as of recent, we've just kind of taken him out of rankings. Like, where do we really plop Kawhi? We really don't. So I'm okay with doing that if we're going to do that as well with Joel Embiid. But I know, and we all know, that when he is on that court, there are not many that are better than him.
I just feel like a current player ranking 100% gets you. An all-time ranking, Kawhi Leonard has a better case for an all-time ranking because he's accomplished so much, even with the injuries. Joel Embiid all-time, who's the worst player that you're putting him over all-time?
Damn,
that played the center position to make it a little bit easier.
Marc Gasol? That was just the first name. I don't know why that was the first name that got brought up, but yeah, that's the first. You said center.
Joel Embiid at his best or Marc Gasol? Like, let's be serious.
That's why I said
Embiid at his best. It's Embiid, but
Embiid's better. That's what I'm saying. Like,
I'm still going with Dwight Howard over Embiid.
See, that's the next name I was going to say. Joel Embiid at his best or Dwight Howard at his best? I think the answer is Joel Embiid.
But what's his best? 50 games.
The MVP season.
I would rather probably have Dwight.
I'd rather have Dwight.
That offense is flawless from Joel Embiid.
Yeah, but I know Dwight's going to give me that elite defense throughout the playoffs, too.
But Joel Embiid's a really strong defender in his own right. Plus, he's one of the elite offensive players this game's ever seen.
Embiid in his MVP season, didn't they choke against the Celtics?
He did, but he was also hurt in that series.
See, that's
no, and I agree. And I started off by saying I don't want to give him a pass for that series for him not closing out. Bro.
They were up 3-2. Tatum was having the worst game of his career in Game 6. They were up in that fourth quarter and blew it. Then they went back to Boston in Game 7. Tatum dropped 50. And that was, you know what I mean? So like they had opportunities to do it.
Like a what if center is like Bill Walton, who won his only year he was healthy. And I'll go Bill Walton over Joel Embiid.
We haven't seen Joel Embiid at his best then. You like the way that Bill Walton had that 1 year, he was able to stay healthy. We've never seen that.
I feel like we have seen Embiid have playoff series where he has been available, like healthy. Okay, when has he ever been healthy? Okay, he's probably never been 100% healthy, but he's been able to play and he's been available and he's not played well.
Listen, if you're talking skill for skill, Joel Embiid is top 3 most skilled big ever. Probably like top 3, top 5 skill. But if we're talking just which player I want, who's going to give me sound impact, who's going to be available for me, I don't see how I'm taking him over Dwight Howard.
The availability is where you got it.
Dwight Howard is giving you, he gave you a smooth 9-10 seasons of just elevation in the regular season and the playoffs.
Hey, am I going Dwight or Patrick Ewing? I mean, Embiid or Patrick Ewing?
Pat.
You got to take Pat, unfortunately, for Embiid.
In the big man era, what Pat was doing, give me Pat, man. Fuck Embiid.
Yo, what would Joel Embiid have done in that big man era?
Probably what Pat was doing.
Maybe better.
Or not play.
Cook. Probably, yeah. Especially you don't have the medicine you have today.
I don't want to act like Embiid to just go there and kill because he has to see Hakeem every other night, David Robinson every other night, Shaq this ain't going to see Andre Drummond. This ain't going to see Jackson Hayes. No, this is going to the cream of the crop big man era where you have to see an elite big every night.
Hey,
like the guards now, but they
isn't there something to say about Joel Embiid going up against Jokic and majority of the time getting the upper hand?
They actually played.
It's been almost 5 years.
Yeah, they don't even play.
No, yeah, I think Embiid is most definitely arguably one of the most skilled centers of all time, or the most skilled big men of all time. I just feel like even it's translated in the regular season. It just really hasn't translated in the playoffs. Even when he's been hurt, when he's had something nagging, there have been opportunities to put teams away, and he just hasn't done it.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, sorry, Rib. I
thought Drew was going to respond. He didn't respond.
I thought Dehls was cooking.
Embiid, man.
He was cooking. I agree. It's unfortunate because you want those top end talents like him, Kawhi, Brandon Roy, D Rose. You want them to play because it just makes the competition so much. Like, imagine if D Rose was healthy and we got those point guard battles with him. John Wall, now he's playing with Steph. And
Embiid's had teams too. It's not like Embiid's had just like dog shit teammates. Like, he has had some really top level teammates too, and he just hasn't been able to.
Let's be fair. Let's be fair to Embiid. The bounce was crazy.
I don't blame that on him. He didn't play well that series though.
Toronto also did a great job of stopping Giannis.
Of course, they're elite.
The defense was amazing, is what I'm saying.
Nobody's denying that. The bounce was crazy.
The bounce was nuts. It was game 7.
It wasn't winning the OT though.
How do you know that?
I don't know. It wasn't even going to OT. Bounce. Yeah. Listen, it's like Embiid outside of the fourth quarters. He was pretty great against Atlanta. Like, I won't deny that. He played really well against Atlanta.
Yeah, he did. I just think that when it comes to Embiid, it's like he could have. Yeah, if he stays healthy, he could have either been an all-time great who went on a finals run, or he could have been James Harden. You know, I think either of those two scenarios would have happened.
Wait, who?
Embiid either, if he stayed healthy, Embiid either would have been an all-time great who won a championship, or he would have been James Harden.
What's more likely, man?
Me and James Harden so funny to me.
Being James Harden's an all-time great.
Yeah, that's not wrong with being James Harden.
Like it's like, damn, like I'm James Harden. Like,
well, yeah, it's just a playoff underperformer.
Could have said Charles Barkley, man.
Well, Charles Barkley led his team to the finals.
I wouldn't say he was an underperformer in the playoffs.
James Harden? I don't like. I feel like calling him James Harden. I feel like it's disrespectful to James Harden.
Embiid?
Yeah.
Hey, listen. I mean, the team that beat Harden at his best was the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, I
mean, that's not. Yeah, Embiid didn't run into that.
Harden's top 5 in his position.
Yeah, Embiid ran into fucking Al Horford and Marcus Gasol and shit. This dude ran into fucking the KD Warriors, bro. Like,
yeah, that's why. But I'm just saying from like a playoff underperformance standpoint, because Harden's reputation, although not the most fair, still is a playoff underperformer. He doesn't live up to his regular season standard.
The most fair. I think the only season Harden really gets the pass is 2018.
His prime years where the Rockets were at his best, definitely unfair.
Like, which years would you argue?
2017 to 2018, after the Spurs series, basically.
Oh,
the series that he got benched?
Manu Ginobili blocked him?
No, the series that they, in Game 6, they lost with the Spurs not having, I think, LaMarcus Aldridge or Kawhi. I don't know.
He had a world record-breaking. Here we go, Drew. Record-breaking game in which he had like 12 turnovers.
Yeah, he was terrible in that game. It was a closeout game for the Rockets, and he didn't show up.
Hate to see it.
I'm talking about the prime years. The prime years, definitely that first year with Chris Paul, the second year with Chris Paul, and then that third year when he had Russell Westbrook. Those were the 3 where I thought he played well.
Yeah, Westbrook was that year was just unfortunate. You ran into the Lakers. They put AD on Westbrook. It was over.
The 2020 Rockets, that was an ugly team.
Yeah, he averaged 30 against the Lakers though.
He did, and he almost also did lose to the Thunder.
They did. I know the Thunder. That was a hard matchup. Lou Dort was guarding him. That's tough.
Yeah, Harden was not that great against OKC.
No, he wasn't. But Harden had the game-winning block though in that series.
He did have the game-winning block. We cannot forget that.
He did. He did have that. Yeah. So on to the NFL stuff. We got some news with the franchise tag players. So only 2 players were franchise tagged: T. Higgins at $26.2 million and Trey Smith at $23.4 million. Now, this is the fewest amount of players franchise tagged since 1994. We really usually get much more motion around this time, but it has not happened. Some other players that were going to get franchise tagged but ended up getting contracts. Osa Odigizua from the Cowboys got a 4-year, $80 million deal with $58 million guaranteed. Not franchise tag, obviously, but Saquon Barkley, just restructured his deal, 2-year extension with the Eagles for $41.2 million with $36 million guaranteed. Sam Darnold not tagged, and Davante Adams got released by the Jets, so they free up some cap space. And the Rams traded Jonah Jackson to the Bears for a 6th-round pick. Which one of these moves do you think was the biggest, or that you want to talk about the most?
Well, I'll start because Lombardi, champions start first. The biggest, obviously, and the best move is the most important move, and that's the best running back in NFL history getting a little bit of an extension. Now, well-deserved money, $41.2 million is what you said, if I'm not mistaken. Whatever it was, great money, definitely well-deserved. Puts him at the top of the running back market. Coming off a career year, I'm excited to see how Howie attacks this offseason and maybe lessening the load for Saquon or making it more balanced in terms of the passing game being better and the run game. Because Saquon, after I want to say the bye week or after like week 3, started to get a lot of touches. You know, we saw Tampa game, he didn't get a ton of touches. The Saints game he did, but they didn't really gear him up until like after the bye, and he did really well. So I'm excited to see how Saquon does. Tegan released, it saved you guys a ton of money, and realistically, him and Aaron Rodgers is probably gone. Tate's probably going to leave too. And listen, you need those old veterans out of there, those guys that have any ties to Aaron Rodgers. I saw Lazard. You told him he can go seek for a trade too. Yeah, so look, any ties to Aaron Rodgers, you want out the building. I respect it. You want to just get all the bad vibes or just anything that warrants last year. If it's not a high-level young player, you want it gone. And I respect that. T. Higgins getting tagged. Me, Joel, and Drew have been back and forth on this. Joel is very adamant on T. Higgins re-signing. I just don't know. I just don't feel like a tag doesn't make me comfortable about you getting re-signed. It really doesn't. It just gives me the vibe. Like, tag screams to me, especially after a career year in which you got tagged the year before, we still can't find the money for you, or we still can't find the number for you. So we're going to tag you and keep you here, which screams to me T. Higgins might ask for a trade. We saw on Twitter, or was it Instagram, he tweeted tag. So he with a dot at the end. We know how petty shit goes. When you put that dot at the end, that means something is brewing. So I don't know. I'm not fully optimistic about T. Higgins staying. Jamar Chase also posted like a meme of what Joe Burrow was saying. Remember what Joe Burrow was like, Harry Roseman could do it. Let's get it done. He'll do what he needs to do. I'm really not optimistic on T. Higgins staying, man. I feel like there's a lot of teams that can want his talent. There's a lot of teams that'll break the bank for him. There's a lot of teams that'll send capital for him. And I think Cincinnati could be looking at trading him for maybe finessing a team for a first-round pick and drafting another wide receiver or a second-round pick, maybe getting a guy like Bolden or Isaiah Bond, somebody like that. I'm really not optimistic about T. Higgins staying with Cincinnati. And if he does end up leaving, that really puts a monkey wrench into the situation of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. You still haven't given Jamar Chase his money. I don't know why it's taken so long. Maybe because they can't pay him yet. I don't know how that works. But Jamar Chase should have got his money the moment you realized you wasn't making the playoffs, which was after week 18 or whatever it was. That's the day he should have got his money. But T. Higgins, I'm not too optimistic on him staying.
Yeah, I would have got booty butt naked for T. Higgins on the Denver Broncos. So it's a huge bummer that
he do that.
I might if we go and we bring him to the team. Oh, you're just saying you want me to dance for you? I could do that. That being said, yo, I'll do something for some money. I'll say that. Let me do that. That being said, T. Higgins getting tagged was corny. He was supposed to be the hot name on the free agent market, and him getting tagged is a giant blue ball. Now the nice name on the free agent market obviously is going to be Davante Adams. That's definitely intriguing. I'm not going to say it's not, but T. Higgins is the young free agent sexy name, 26 years old, was going to go out there and command $25 to $30 million every single year. The tag obviously being for $25 million. T. Higgins is not going to be upset at that, but he does want a long-term contract. And this year, similar to how we saw in years past with other players, like Lamar Jackson, in my opinion, that you have a minor injury, and instead of playing through it, because you do have your long-term contract, you're more willing to risk your body a little bit more. With minor injuries that we saw from T. Higgins, he sat this year. He missed 5 games. And if it was anything minor, you weren't seeing T. Higgins on that football field. But when he was on that football field, Lord knows that he was the best version of himself. This was, in my opinion, the best T. Higgins that we've seen. So I thought we were going to see him get a contract, whether it was with the Bengals or with another team. To see him getting tagged was definitely a bummer. Now, on the opposite side of a player not getting tagged is Chris Godwin. That shocked me. I thought all I've read this offseason was that they were going to tag Chris Godwin. He was going to be one of those guys that did receive it, but him not getting the tag, hey, come on home. That would be excellent for what the Denver Broncos are trying to do. A guy that can separate. I know he is coming off a torn ACL, but Chris Godwin was amazing before getting injured last season. This is something that he's been through already, or not torn ACL, excuse me.
I think it was an ankle injury.
Broken ankle. Thank you very much. He obviously does have the history of the torn ACL a couple of seasons ago, did break his ankle this past year. It's something that is going to be interesting to see how he comes back from, but I'd be looking and be interested very much so in bringing Chris Godwin aboard. And I know a lot of other teams would love Chris Godwin to the service. The Commanders, I think, took themselves out of the race for a couple of these free agent wide receivers, especially the bigger names after trading for Deebo Samuel. But I look at the Packers. The Packers could use a guy like Chris Godwin, a guy with for sure hands, great route running, great separation. You can look at the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen getting a nice safety blanket. Wouldn't be surprised if he was one of those guys. Lamar Jackson could use a wide receiver boost. You go and you bring in, I think I like Rashad Bateman a lot. I like Zay Flowers a lot, but you need something for sure. Chris Godwin is that type of guy. Interested to see the type of money that he commands in free agency. But that shocked me. I thought that he was going to come back paired alongside Mike Evans, but it showed how much faith they have in the rookie McMillan.
Yeah, I would be pretty surprised, honestly, if T. Higgins is on the Bengals long term. It's just everything they've kind of done throughout their franchise's history. And now that you have Joe Burrow, maybe that changes because you feel like you have a real chance to win a Super Bowl every single season. And when you had, Andy Dalton and Carson Palmer, you probably didn't feel like you had that level of confidence in the quarterback play. But the ownership right now for Cincy is just pretty poor in terms of owners. Like, obviously, he's worth like hundreds of millions of dollars, but he is still the poorest owner amongst all of the other NFL owners. So when you're giving out these contracts, we only really ever talk about salary cap and how it impacts the cap, but you also have to put that money in an escrow. So like when you give out $100 million guaranteed, like that $100 million is coming out of the owner's pockets. So I don't know if you have to pay Jamar Chase, you're paying Joe Burrow. Is it worth it to pay T. Higgins? He's a great player. I think he showed this year at his peak, he could be a borderline top 10 receiver in the NFL. But when I look at the Bengals, they have so many holes that if you're paying Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, and T. Higgins, that doesn't automatically mean you're going to a Super Bowl, right? Like this is a team that still has to compete in this division with the Baltimore Ravens, who have shown year in and year out without receivers that they could be amongst the best teams in the AFC, let alone the AFC North. The Steelers we're not as worried about just because quarterback, but they're probably going to win fucking 10 games every year for the rest of our lives. And the Browns are a bit of a mess right now. But just because you're paying T. Higgins and bringing him back, the main thing it does is it settles down Joe Burrow, I think, that if you don't bring back his buddy, what happens a year from now? What happens 2 years from now? If you miss the playoffs or God forbid Burrow gets injured again or something happens to Jamar Chase, there's a chance that he's looking for another team. I think that's kind of the biggest question you have right now if you don't pay T. Higgins is what is the effect on Joe Burrow and his long-term outlook on the Bengals if he knows ownership is not going to do everything they can to pay their star players. But from a football perspective, I don't hate moving on from T. Higgins, right? Like I said, peak for peak, he could be a top 10 guy. It's also some of the last 2 years has dealt with injuries. He's dealt with injuries really his whole career, but these last two seasons, he's missed, I think, 10 games combined. And you have Jamar Chase. You have someone that is a bona fide top 2 wide receiver in football. And as Joel loves to mention, when T. Higgins is off the field, not much changes for the Cincinnati Bengals or Jamar Chase for that matter, right? As long as Burrow has one of them, they're going to be a high-level offense. If I'm Cincinnati, I need to look at how do I improve my offensive line, how do I improve my running game, and how do I improve my defense? With Joe Burrow, you just have such a high floor that if you have Chase out there, you can have a middling wide receiver 2 and middling wide receiver 3 and still be a really prolific passing offense just because of how great Joe Burrow is. So from a football perspective, I would not mind saving that salary cap space and getting extra draft capital. I got to hit on those draft picks, which the Bengals have been a bit hit or miss on throughout their history. but I don't think it's the worst move in the world to move off T. Higgins.
I think the Bengals have shot themselves in the foot. They made Jamar Chase more expensive than he would have been because they refused to pay him early. They made T. Higgins more expensive than he would have been because they refused to pay him early. T. Higgins right now is the hottest wide receiver on the market. Both if he entered free agency, which he's not because they franchise tagged him, but also if somebody wants to trade for him, there's still going to be a lot of suitors that want to trade for him. And I think, if anything, I don't agree with the franchise tag, but if anything, what this franchise tag did is it bought the Bengals some time to negotiate an extension or to trade him, so he's not walking for nothing like Jesse Bates did, and they got nothing back from him. There is a opportunity for the Bengals to get something back for T. Higgins if they want to go that route. But what you mentioned, Dehls, from a business perspective, it really doesn't make much sense because Joe Burrow, $50 million quarterback. Jamar Chase, $40 million receiver. T. Higgins, with this market, $30 million receiver. You're paying three dudes $120 million per year. Those are just three players who need to fill up an entire football team. I think it makes sense if they do trade T. Higgins, but they got to make the right moves, man. You got to bring in the right defensive players. You got to bring in the right offensive linemen that are going to improve that offensive lineman, that pass protection to give Joe Burrow more manageable and workable pockets. If they're going to make a move like this and they're going to risk T. Higgins not being on the team next year, they better make sure they hit on all their moves and make it well worth it, because having a player like T. Higgins also masked a lot of things, and I think it makes them a great offense going up elite tier defenses. But we also saw Joe Burrow without T. Higgins, but only Jamar Chase. He threw for 400 yards and multiple touchdowns against the Baltimore Ravens in primetime. Like, this is somebody in Joe Burrow that even without T. Higgins, he can just have Jamar Chase out there and he will still play really well. But if they're going to trade T. Higgins, you better get the right compensation, and you better make that compensation worthwhile if you're going to move on from a player like this.
What's fair? First and like a day two, like a first and a third.
So I agree.
I think that's what it has to be. If you're trading away T. Higgins, a first round pick and a day two pick. If I'm the Bengals, okay, New England, I'll trade you T. Higgins for that 4th overall pick straight up. We're good.
And this
not in God's name would I do that, though.
This is where I disagree. This is where they fucked themselves. Your quarterback, your franchise quarterback, has already come out and said, bring him back. He's already stated he wants him back. Bring him back. I'll do whatever to get him back. He's put his stamp on it. Now, if you go out there, you already tagged him. T. Higgins is upset again. You tagged him for the second time. You already got your number one aggravated because you haven't given him his money. You trade T. Higgins. Now you frustrated your franchise quarterback. Of course he can do it without T. Higgins. Nobody's denying that. He doesn't want to, because a quarterback wants to keep his guys. He wants to give himself the best opportunity. He knows they can't fix that offensive line. So what's going to make that offensive line easier?
Here's the thing. Here's the thing with Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, he wants T. Higgins back because even though the numbers show that he's still elite without T. Higgins, it is making it harder on him when there's not a player like that. That's 100% a fact. I think if the Bengals trade T. Higgins and they're able to rebuild that defense and have a good offensive line next year, because Joe Burrow is not just not going to play. If next year, the Bengals, next season, if they make the playoffs, even after trading T. Higgins, Joe Burrow's going to get over it. You got to make sure you bring the right players in so you have a good football team.
Can I meet in the middle, Riv? Because I agree with you. I understand where you're coming from. If you're Joe Burrow, how much longer of this do you want to deal with? Not how much can you take? Because one, we've seen his body break down on him. That's something that's happened to him, whether it's fair or not. We've seen him be injured and miss key moments of the season. No doubt. But how much longer is he going to be willing to sacrifice his body in the way that he's doing it? He's an elite quarterback. He has the elite traits to evade, to extend plays. We understand that, but it would be a lot easier on him if he had an offensive line. So I get where you're coming from, which is where I come to Joel's side, and he's 100% sound in this. It may come at a sacrifice to Joe Burrow to lose his number 2 guy in T. Higgins, because one, you have the best in the game, arguably, in Jamar Chase. You know that Joe Burrow is able to get the most out of his secondary players. Now, would it be nice if it was T. Higgins? No doubt. But you know that we've seen moments in spurts that Chase Brown was huge in the past game. Yoshi Vosh was big in the passing game this past season in moments as well. You know Joe Burrow can elevate these other guys around him so long as Jamar Chase is on the field, either Jamar or T. Yeah. If Joel's point is, let's move off, and Joel's as well, excuse me, that if you go and you can get a nice trade for T. Higgins, it may be a sacrifice that would be beneficial, not just for Joe, but for the Bengals' entirety to solidify that offensive line, which is number one in my opinion, because you need to protect Joe Burrow and keep him safe, and then go ahead and get some assets on the defensive side.
It's been number one for 4 years.
They've tried. They've failed.
How much faith are you going to continue to put? And I'm looking, if I'm sitting in Joe Burrow, obviously I'm not Joe Burrow, but if I'm sitting in Joe Burrow's seat, my first year was devastated. It was ruined by an injury. I come into year 2. I believe that's when they make the Super Bowl. I come into year 2. Offensive line, still bad. Come into year 3. Jake Browning has to come in. Offensive line, still bad. Year 4, offensive line, still bad. You have now gone 4 years of nonstop misses. Now I'm in year 5. I don't have my guy, my number 2. I have my number 1. Offensive line, still bad. I don't think it matters if they make the playoffs, because I think Joe Burrow is great. He'll eventually get them to the playoffs. But I'm looking at it as if they don't fix that offensive line, I might not make it to year 8 or 9 healthy. And that's the situation.
I think that's valid. I think the thing is, though, if they pay T. Higgins, they won't be able to sign anybody on the offensive line. I think that's the thing, or they won't be able to even sign defensive help. If they sign T. Higgins to a long-term extension, also Trey Hendrickson, who just led the league in sacks, he wants an extension as well. So you got to also think about him. If you pay T. Higgins, you won't be able to maybe add a Milton Williams if you want to go pursue that route and maybe add him to the team. You won't be able to maybe sign Mekhi Becton at right guard so he can play on the offensive line and add some athleticism to the offensive line. If they pay T. Higgins, the only avenues to improving the offensive line and defense are through the draft. That's it. But I think it's easier to improve wide receiver through the draft than it is those positions.
Yes, I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing with that. Lately, we've had an influx of elite wide receiver talent. Yeah, great. Dehls, I pulled that out the ass. That was different. I need people to respect me when they hear that. But we had it's just so many great wide receiver talents. But Joel, we and you have been on this show for 5 years. You have done nothing but scream about how this team has missed on the offensive line. You have done nothing but scream about how these defensive players have not been what you thought they could have been. So now I ask you, how much faith do you actually have in free agents going to Cincinnati knowing they have the poorest, like Dehls just mentioned, the poorest GM in football, so you're not even going to get that bag that you want, and you know they're not going to extend you too much. So now you can't get much free agents because they haven't had many in 4 years, to my knowledge, and your drafting skills aren't that well. We're looking at a shit show, fellas. We're looking at a complete shit show.
I think the Bengals are dysfunctional. I think this draft specifically, the Bengals have a shot to draft right and really hit a home run. All of their needs are in this draft. It's a deep defensive line draft. Mike Gesicki's a free agent at tight end, but he plays more like a wide receiver. Doesn't line up in line.
He's just there?
He is there, and he's a free agent though. He was only signed for 1 year, but he played well for them last year. A tight end. This is a deep tight end draft. This is a deep corner draft. This is a deep interior offensive line draft that they can maybe get in day 2 or day 3 of this draft. This is you're not going to find tier 1 wide receivers in this draft. This is a pretty deep wide receiver draft when it comes to just depth guys. This is a deep running back draft. Yep. This draft has everything that the Bengals could want. They just have to draft well. But if they don't, obviously it doesn't matter. You know, last year there's a Twitter account that its name is Gridiron Grading. They give grades to teams that draft, and they basically rank them. The 2 teams that had the best drafts over the past couple of seasons have been the Eagles and the Chiefs. is no surprise as to why they're at the top of the NFL. You want to know who had the number 1 rated draft according to them last season? The Washington Commanders. It's not rocket science why the Commanders took a massive leap. They had a great draft. You have to have a great draft, and I think moving on from T. Higgins is a big risk. But if you get draft capital and then you get that financial flexibility to add more impact players, I think that is more of a conducive way to building around an elite quarterback. But we have to see if that indeed is the case, because it hasn't been for them.
I agree with you.
Burrow just might be screwed, man. Sometimes great quarterbacks just go to bad organizations. Sometimes quarterbacks that could be great just go to bad organizations and never get a shot. Zach Wilson. You know what I mean? Like, what happens to go to
Zach Wilson? Because you think about it, between Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson, between Burrow and all of them, Burrow has the best guy to throw to out of all of them in Jamar Chase.
The second best guy, too.
The difference is that those organizations are stable and they build their defenses. They draft well. If Joe Burrow and if the Bengals can draft well, Joe Burrow has the best offensive weapon of all those guys.
Can we just, I understand where you're coming from, Joel. Here's the issue. We look at these drafts that they've had, and they haven't been all world. Yes, you had Jamar Chase. You could argue no-brainer pick. Joe Burrow, great selection. Number 1 overall pick. T. Higgins, great selection in the 2nd round. Logan Wilson fell off a cliff. You look at
he's good. He's good.
2023 wasn't that great. 2024, I guess he's maybe came back. You look at these day 2, day 3 picks, they haven't been great. And I guess like the one that we can highlight, I guess, is Chase Brown. Like,
he's just been 1 year, really.
And no, they've had bad drafts. I like their pick, Armarius Mims on the right side. That's why I think their offensive line, they're 2 players away, which is both guard positions. Orlando Brown, Armarius Mims, and Ted Karras. I think those are good offensive linemen. If they can fill up guard, they can improve that offensive line by a lot. I like Tate Retledge from Georgia. And if they get in Mekhi Becton, even with the injury concerns, he's an athletic guy who can help their offensive line, especially in run blocking. So, listen, your point is valid. The Bengals have had a bad draft. If you have a good draft once out of 3 years, you make up for it just because of the rookie contracts and how they reset. All they need to have is just one outstanding draft, and those drafts that you're talking about, they're not going to matter, but they need to hit a home run this draft. That's why I'm waiting to see what they do. The draft is going to be a big thing, and I think the draft for the Bengals, this is arguably the biggest draft of their franchise with Joe Burrow.
It is.
And the last thing I'll mention, I really like Jonah Jackson going to the Bears. I think they need offensive line help, and he's familiar with Ben Johnson.
And it was cheap.
Yes.
Yeah, 6th round pick.
I'm very excited.
We always get this every offseason. You're able to get like really quality players for like day 3 picks for really like no reason, right? I think Jonah Jackson, obviously this year, going years back to our Jets, we got Brandon Marshall for I think like a 5th round pick. Every single season, there's guys that are real contributors. And I remember I talked about this thing on the last episode. I don't know why teams are so like hell-bent on keeping their draft picks, right? Part of it is probably from like a cap situation. I don't know what Jonah Jackson's cap hit is off the top of my head, but there's a possibility if it's like $9 or $12 million. Maybe you don't want to pay that if you're the Rams, but he's someone like you mentioned, Joel, played for the Lions. He knows Ben Johnson's system. Chicago needs offensive line help. This doesn't fix your offensive line overnight, but at least gives you a stopgap at one of those positions, and you can still take another one, right? Will Campbell is probably going to be in conversation at pick 10 to potentially, pair up at guard, or if they think he's a tackle, depending on what they think of his arm length or whatnot. But it's a great move. I think the Bears they've been trending in the right direction. Of course, last year was probably a bit of a step back of what we were expecting them to be, but Ben Johnson's a home run hire. We all think Caleb Williams is going to be a really good quarterback. And these are the moves around the edges that it happens. It's like one of the first moves of the offseason that no one thinks about once free agency comes around. But then we're in like November, and you're like, holy shit, Jonah Jackson is being great as a top 15 guard. And you're like, oh, they got him for a 6th round pick. These are the type of moves that smart teams make.
I was going to say, like, even on a lower key, you guys getting Morgan Moses back for the Ravens trading up 20 spots in the 4th round, and you guys were able to get back a quality offensive lineman. It's like, your point's 100% fact.
Yep, just like Mekhi Becton.
Oof.
So it's a great. Hey, that's a great signing from the Eagles.
Mekhi Becton. You could talk a lot of shit about a lot of Jets moves. Mekhi Becton is not on the Jets, brother.
And that's gonna do it for this episode of Pick a Side Podcast. We'll be back tomorrow, and we'll be back with mostly NBA episode. Yeah, we'll talk about it. We'll think about it, Mr. River Brown. But that's gonna do it for us. You can follow us on Twitter at Pick a Side Pod, on Instagram and TikTok at Pick a Side Podcast. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.